Kayo kenap mentelok lilim. Aneh to anah ak main dani.
Thank you, Sean. Got another song? No. Thank you, Sean. Thank you so much. Sean was playing sape. Is that how you say it? Yes. Sean, is that how you say it? Sape. Yes, sape. Okay. Mewarisi Sean bawakan kita budaya masyarakat Sarawak. Dari Sarawak dibawakan terus ke mana kita hari ini? Di Kuala Lumpur Convention Centre. Okay, alright, ladies and gentlemen, are we all in? Is everyone in? Okay, is everyone okay? My goodness, ini macam belum lunch ni. Is everyone okay? Energized? Oi, macam tak ada tenaga ni. Okay, can you please give me your loudest cheer? Are we okay? Yay! Thank you so much. Okay. All right, so welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope everyone's had a good lunch. Okay, so now we're back. So normally after lunch, there's always two possibilities, right? One, our tummies are so filled, we'll be sleepy. Number two, we'll be more energetic. So I hope all of you won't fall asleep. I believe you won't, because what we have prepared for you for the second half is amazing. You will look forward to it. So, and now, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who has been with me since morning, we were speaking on global trends empowering local action. All right. So for the second session, our summit focuses on communities at the center of sustainability. But before we continue with our discussions, ladies and gentlemen, we shall take a short moment to pause and reconnect, because sometimes, right, the most powerful messages don't always come from data or reports, but it comes from laughter. Yes, laughter is the best medicine. All right, and we believe that awareness can be created in many ways, even through humor. And yes, comedy has a wonderful way of breaking barriers, sparking reflection, and helping important messages reach people from all walks of life. So as we lighten up the mood and lift our energy after lunch, so all of you don't fall asleep and keep energized till the end of the day, we've prepared someone truly special for you. All right? Please put your hands together for Malaysia's most sought after, Mr. Kevin J.
Thank you very much for that standing ovation that I got just now. Thank you for the energy that you're... No, please sit down, please. No, enough. Thank you. Sorry, Yes, the one. Yes, just one scream. Yes, that's why I do this. That's why I do this job as a comedian. That's why I do this job, for one scream.
One more cheer, everyone! Woo!
No, I only joke. I get it. It's a sustainability event, so you all need to sustain your energy. I get it. Right, I understand this, right? You know, it's always, sustainability. Like, we always ask for renewable energy, to recycle. But when a comedian recycles his jokes, it's a big problem, right? But hey, hi, my name is Kevin J. I am a stand-up comedian. Why am I here? I'm supposed to make you all laugh, right? I've got nothing to do with sustainability or anything like that, right? I'm not supposed to give you all information about how to be sustainable. I'm not here to give you all information on how you all can, live your life better. I'm a comedian, okay? This is what I do for a living. I make people laugh, okay? So for now, what I can offer, however, is to let you all know that I feel Malaysians, right? We are in Malaysia. How many of you are Malaysians? Make some noise. All right. How many of you non-Malaysians, make some noise? Oh, cool. All right. We'll get to you all later. All right. But first, Like Malaysians, we are the most sustainable people in the world. Okay, we are the most sustainable people in the world. Like for instance, I've seen an article a few years ago about plastics in the ocean, right? And how in Southeast Asia, Malaysia is one of the contributors of plastics in the ocean. Now, I find this very hard to agree with because every single plastic I've ever owned is still in my mother's drawer. Right? She collects plastic. She collects plastic every day. She is the best collector of plastic. She has the largest collection of plastics in the world. Right? Like for instance, my mother will have plastics inside another plastic, inside another plastic, inside another plastic. Right? It's like plastic inception at this point. Right? And she even has plastic bags of shops that already closed. Right? Like for instance, have you all heard of Macro? Yeah, she still got the plastic. No more shop, Bought over already. Have you all heard of Carrefour? Yes, Carrefour, no more already, right? But she still, no, actually, you know what? I'm wrong. It's supposed to be the French pronunciation, which is Carrefour, right? Which is, I'm convinced why that shop closed down. Because aunties cannot say Carrefour. Okay? Whenever aunties want to go shopping, they'll be like, hey, want to go Carrefour. You know what? Let's just go to Tesco. Even Tesco also no more already, but my mother still has the plastic bag. Okay, you understand what I'm trying to say. And also, Tupperware. Oh, my mother loves Tupperware. She has Tupperware over Tupperware. And I know this for a fact. The Tupperware very cheap, 20 cents maybe sometimes, right? She will keep the Tupperware. She'll wash, she'll keep. Broken already, never mind. But if you lose the Tupperware, she will bury you inside the Tupperware. Okay, I don't know why she's so attached to a Tupperware, this thing. I mean, look, the recycling culture doesn't only end there. Like for instance, in Malaysia, we have the most sustainable drivers in the world, right? The most sustainable drivers in the world. You know why? Because none of them use their signal. Right? They conserve energy. You see, you have to conserve energy. You know what I mean, right? You see, like Malaysia now, we are moving towards the EV nation, right? We want to get more EVs on the road, right? Unfortunately, the road still not yet repaired yet, but we're still working on that, right? But that joke only for me. Right? Also another thing about my family loves to recycle a lot. Like for instance, I have an auntie who is a pharmacy. Not a pharmacist. Very different, okay? Very subtle difference. What she does is she collects medicine. Right? When she gets medicine from the clinic, or when anybody is sick, she will collect medicine like Pokemon like that. And what does she do with this medicine? She'll keep it in a handbag. Right? And then where does the recycling come in? Whenever members of the family is sick, she will recycle this medicine. She will dispense this medicine without a bloody license. Okay, she'll give out this any sickness you may have, like what? If you got stomach ache, don't worry, she has the medicine for you, right? If you have nausea, she has the medicine for you, don't worry. Right? If you have hypertension, high blood pressure, she also has the medicine for you. Now, she doesn't have hypertension. Where did she get the medicine from? Nobody knows. Okay, you don't ask questions. And also, over the pandemic, we found out this same auntie who is the pharmacy is also anti-vax. That's right. She didn't want to take the COVID vaccine, right? And we had to have an intervention for her. We sat her down, right? We asked her, why don't you want to take the COVID vaccine? She's like, no, I don't want to. I don't know what's in the vaccine, she says. I don't know what's in the vaccine. And we're like, auntie, we don't know what's in your handbag. Okay? And then she said, no, not only that. I don't want to simply put things in my body. That's when I said, auntie, hold on. You just gave me Panadol that expired 7 years ago. You are simply putting things in my body, you understand? Right? And then she said, no, not only that. I read. Now, to be fair, in defense of my aunt, she does read a lot. She does read a lot from a very popular medical journal. I don't know if you heard of it. It's called WhatsApp. Very popular. But yeah, so she read an article apparently, which was forwarded probably by my mother, right? An article that said, you know the creator of the vaccine? You know the creator of the vaccine, right? Bill Gates, right? The guy who created the vaccine like a cocktail behind his house, Second richest man alive, nothing better to do, created the cocktail. And what he did was he sprinkled in some nanobots, some microchips into the vaccine, right? Not very sustainable, right? Sprinkled in. And what happens is when you take the vaccine, the microchips will crawl all the way to your head, and Bill Gates will control your mind. Right? That's what she didn't want. She said, I don't want Bill Gates to control my mind. And we're like, Auntie, you failed SPM, you know. Okay? Second of all, you're a housewife in Kuala Lumpur. Okay? Bill Gates doesn't know who you are. Right? Bill Gates doesn't want to control your mind. In fact, if Bill Gates wants to control your mind, let him. He will make better choices than you understand. Right? So yeah, that's for Malaysians, right? Malaysians, we are very sustainable, right? Like for instance, for me, I want to be sustainable as well. Like for instance, I don't know if you know this, but recently I've lost a lot of weight, right? I lost a lot of weight. No, don't clap, you don't know how. Could have been drugs. It's not. No, but I'll tell you why. I tell you why I wanted to lose weight, first of all, right? This happened to me 3 years ago, right? 3 years ago, I had a gig in Manila, right? I was supposed to travel to Manila to do a show, right? And I used to weigh 120 kilograms, right? 100, I know, right? That's a lot, right? And the thing is, for me, 120 kilograms in Malaysia is not very sustainable because I can't buy clothes in Malaysia. Very difficult, right? Usually when I go to shops, they'll look at me, they go say, hey, you are a size L size, don't worry, this one big size, US size will fit you, don't worry. And then I walk out with a sports bra, right? Very comfortable. Right? So, and the thing is, like, I 120 kilograms, I booked my tickets online, very happy, right? I went to the counter to check in, right? And the lady behind the counter looked at me, she said, sir, how much do you weigh? Not my bags, you know, straight to my face. Right? I didn't know what to do, so I told her the truth. Right? I said, I weigh 120 kilograms at that time. Right? And then she looked at me, she said, sir, if you weigh above a certain amount, you have to buy 2 seats on the plane, right? 2 seats, lowest point of my life. I didn't know what to do, right? I didn't want to argue. So, you know what? I thought to myself, you know what? I bought 2 seats. I bought 2 seats because I thought to myself, 2 meals. Right? You want chicken or fish? Both. Right? And that's when I took my tickets and I very sadly, very solemnly walked to the plane to find my seats. And that's when I found out that the seats were not together. Right? One was at the front of the plane, one was at the back of the plane. What am I supposed to do? Right? Sit at the back for takeoff, sit at the front for landing, is it? Balancing. Right? And how did I lose weight? Right? Okay, it wasn't drugs. It was okay. So my wife, when she saw me, becoming bigger, she decided to put me on a diet. Right? She decided to put me on a diet. Now, she put me on a keto diet. Right? Do you all know what a keto diet is? Yeah, so I don't have to explain it, right? A keto diet. And let me tell you, I've been on the keto diet for 1 year now, and I've already lost the will to live. It's a horrible diet. I don't know who came up with it. Because, the thing is about the keto diet is the rule number one. Rule number one, you cannot eat rice. You cannot eat rice. You know how embarrassing that is, that I cannot eat rice? As a Malaysian Indian, how do I tell my mother? I don't eat rice, you understand? I cannot, it's impossible. Okay? And then second rule is that you cannot eat bread. You cannot eat, I don't know about you, but I always thought bread was healthy. Right? I always thought bread was healthy because when I was sick, when I was a kid, when I was sick, my mother will give me bread. My auntie will give me medicine, but my mother will always give me bread. Like for instance, if I had a stomach ache, bread, right? Type 2 diabetes, bread, right? He was really sick, she put tiger balm on the bread. Wait, why are you all laughing? Am I the only one eating the tiger balm sandwich? She put tiger balm on one side, Vicks on the other. Oh, it's a spicy sandwich, very nice. Right? But here's the thing, right? Okay, so Asians, we all have the miracle cure at home, right? The miracle cure, right? For some people, it's tiger balm. For some people, it's Vicks. For some people in Malaysia, is minyak cap kapak. right? Minyak cap kapar. If you don't know what minyak cap kapar is, it's like what old people use, like cocaine, right? They love the smell, right? I don't know why, right? But here's the thing, like Indian people, we have the best miracle cures in the world. We have the best one, right? Like for instance, some of you all may think it's rasam. Yes, that's a very good miracle cure. But here's another one, right? Franch oil. Have you all heard of Franch oil? Yes, you have. You have 3 bottles at home, I know. Right? No, because this is a sponsored event, right? No, it's not. No, but what can Franch oil do? Everything, right? Because if you look at the ingredients, it includes 100% pure, unfiltered, organic bullshit. Because it does nothing. It does nothing, but it's marketed as a cure-all. What can it cure? If you're dark, you put Franch oil, you will become a source of light. Not fair, you become a light bulb, is what I'm saying. Right? Your house got no electricity, you walk in, everything is fine. Right? If you fall down, you break your arm. You put Franch oil, you will grow another arm. Okay? That's why Indian mythology, everybody got 10 arms. Okay? Some call it mythology, I call it marketing. Right? And my uncle, very sadly, last week, he unfortunately passed away. And it was a very sad time for the family, and we decided to use Franch oil. Right? We put a lot. We put 3 bottles. And guess what? He died. It did not help. EPF SOXO we took out already. But you know what? I'm going to leave you with the last joke. I feel like, sustainability is something that is very important to me. I feel like, because as a parent, that I feel like, we need to leave something for the next generation, right? We need to leave something for the next generation. And I feel like, I want to be more sustainable for my daughter, so that I can leave her a better world. And I think that we should leave something for the next generation, right? And I think the young people of today really need to take control of the policies and, the decision making of this country, and especially about sustainability and environment, right? Because after all, they are the ones who's going to take over this world soon. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to my...
Kevin J! Thank you, Kevin. By the way, I don't own 3 bottles of French oil.
Then 4?
I got minyak kapak. Thank you. Sustainability through comedy. Alright, so sempat diselitkan tadi unsur-unsur recycling. Dan once again, thank you to our comedian Kevin J. Sustainability through comedy. Alright now, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, let us now continue with our next session, which will focus on a policy-driven topic. It is my utmost pleasure to invite on stage Yang Berbahagia, Dato' Dr. Ching Tu Anak Lelaki Kim, Secretary General of the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environmental Sustainability, up on stage to deliver his presentation titled Resilient Communities, the Backbone of a Sustainable Malaysia. Dipersilakan, Dato'.
Terima kasih saudari MC. Let's move to something more serious. Thank you, Kevin, for the jokes. Let me start by thanking the organizer for inviting the ministry to share some of the policy direction that we have undertaken to make sure you and I are safe in this world. Distinguished guests, esteemed partners, members of the media, let me start by thanking the organizer, MGTC and Pusat SDG East Negara, for putting together the effort for us to chart a new direction for our beloved country, Malaysia. And my address today will focus more on resilient communities the backbone of a sustainable Malaysia. It set a very clear message that in order to progress together, we depend on empowering our people. You and I has a role to play. Besides technology and infrastructure, which are also crucial in charting a new Malaysia, we firmly believe in a united and resilient community that form the core of sustainable development. Climate change is now a daily reality. With heat wave, rising sea levels, and extreme weather affecting you and I. And these impacts confirm the urgency of addressing the ongoing climate crisis. Let me give you some statistics. Projections indicate that the country average annual temperature could increase by 1.9 degrees C, 2.1 degrees C by 2100. While rainfall may rise by around 20.6%, exposing the gap in our infrastructure preparedness. And the flood episode that happened in the year 2021, as some of you might experience it. The flood alone displaced more than 400,000 people in that area and resulted in the domestic economic loss of US 1.3 billion. That represents 0.4% of the total GDP. A huge amount. Let's look what happened is within the ASEAN, the regions. Studies by ASEAN Plus 3 Microeconomics Research Office, or MRO, and the UN ESCAPs project that without strong adaptation measures, climate-related losses in ASEAN could reach up to 11% of GDP by 2100. We in Malaysia faces similar challenges. We are already experiencing heavy floods, longer dry seasons, and increasingly unpredictable weather patterns. And last year we had even issues relating to the heat wave in the East Coast. And these impacts remind us to act on both fronts, reducing the causes of climate change and preparing for its impacts. We need to strengthen our efforts to protect communities by improving flood control, upgrading water management system, and enhancing disaster early warning system. The changing climate is already affecting agriculture, food security, and livelihoods of all Malaysians. The National Climate Risk Assessment identifies water resources, agriculture, public health as the sector most at risk from climate impacts. And these challenges make it clear that Malaysia climate ambitions must focus on two core pathways: mitigation and adaptations. Reducing emissions lower future risks, while building adaptive capacity enhances resilience. Together, they are essential for achieving a climate resilient, sustainable Malaysia. Resilience starts with communities. Nation plans matter, but meaningful adaptation happens locally where people know their risks and strengths. Empowering communities is essential to building resilience from the ground up. Across Malaysia, Numerous examples of resilience and innovations are evident. In Kuala Selangor, for example, the Kampung Sungai Sembilang community has restored mangrove forests through local partnership and used volunteerism, protecting coastlines from erosion while fostering ecotourism and livelihood opportunities. These accounts demonstrate the capability, creativity, and compassion of Malaysians in face of challenges. In Penang, for example, the Penang Nature-Based Climate Adaptation Program, funded by Adaptation Fund, illustrates how international support can accelerate local climate actions. The program integrates adaptation with biodiversity and urban resilience, equipping local governments, NGO, and community with resources and capacity to implement climate resilient interventions. It includes 9.2 million ringgit in funding to support urban greening, stormwater management, social resilience, and institutional capacity buildings. While these initiatives may appear modest, collectively they have a substantial impact. They demonstrate that the knowledge, appropriate tools, and trust communities can undertake meaningful action to safeguard themselves, societies, and environment. In building resilience against climate impacts, Malaysia is developing its first comprehensive national adaptation plan, or MINAP, with support from Green Climate Funds in collaboration with both local and international partners such as German Agency for International Cooperation, GIZ. MINAP serves as the nation's strategic blueprint for managing climate risk and strengthening resilience across all sectors and levels of society. And earlier this year, we kicked off a series of workshops that brought together over 100 representatives from government agencies, academia, and NGO, and private sector to share insights and identify priorities across 5 key sectors: public health, infrastructure and cities, water and coastal resources, agriculture and food security, and forestry and biodiversity. Through MINAP, the ministry is adopting a whole of government and whole of society approach that's fostering greater engagement and shared ownership of adaptation efforts among communities, youth groups, NGO, and private sector. We hope to finalize MINAP by next year. Once completed, MINAP will serve as a blueprint for adaptations in Malaysia, complementing the Climate Change Act. It will ensure adaptation is systematically integrated into our national development program, guiding decision-making and investment towards a climate-resilient future. Building resilience is a collective responsibility that extends beyond any single ministry or institutions. I call upon each of you, government agencies, private sectors, civil society, and community to take up this shared responsibility. Together, let us innovate, collaborate, and invest boldly in solutions that secure a resilient future for Malaysia and the region. NRES is committed to strengthening a whole-of-government approach. We work closely with federal agencies, state governments, and local council to integrate adaptation measures into national and local development plannings. For example, through the National Floods Forecasting and Warning Program, we are enhancing collaborations among agencies to improve real-time data sharing, strengthening the early warning system, and protects vulnerable communities from extreme weather events. We also recognize the growing role of the private sector in financing and implementing adaptation measures. Many Malaysian companies are now investing in sustainability through improved resources efficiency, renewable energy adaptation, and nature-based solutions. And these actions are not only good for the environment, but also help businesses safeguard operations and supply chains against climate risk. Research institutions and universities continue to be vital partners in providing scientific data, modeling, and evidence-based policy insights. Collaborative efforts such as those with UKM, Southeast Asia Disaster Prevention Research Institute, have strengthened our capacity in climate risk assessment and local adaptation planning. At the regional level, Malaysia contributes actively to the ASEAN Working Group on Climate Change, sharing expertise in risk assessment, adaptation planning, and communities and engagement, which help to harmonize strategies and promote mutual learnings among ASEAN member states. Globally, we aligned our effort with the Paris Agreement, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, and the Sustainable Development Goal (SDG). These international commitments reinforce Malaysia to strengthen resilient livelihood and ensure sustainable growth. As we look forward to the future, resilience must become an integral part of how we think, how we plan, and how we act as a nation. Building resilience is not a standalone agenda. It must be integrated into our policies, investment, and everyday decisions. Every road we build, every home we design, and every investment we make must consider the realities of a changing climate. Climate-resilient infrastructure is no longer optional. It is essential for safeguarding livelihoods and economic growth. Resilient communities are a backbone of a sustainable Malaysia. When families are safe from floods, when farmers can adapt to changing rainfall patterns, and when cities are built in harmony with nature, we can achieve not only sustainable, but security and dignity. Through the Madani economy and the 13 Malaysia plans, the Ministry will ensure that climate adaptation is embedded across all sectors, from agriculture and industry to health sector, transport and energy. Lastly, this will align national development priorities with long-term sustainable and resilience goal. Just to inform you that the climate change bill, as mentioned by the Minister, will be presented to the Cabinet and to the Parliament, the latest, I would say, first quarter 2026. And we still very much welcome feedbacks from all of you on how best we could address the climate change together. And as we are preparing ourselves to COP30 in Brazil, we will be launching the NDC 3.0 soon. And I think most of you in this room were part of the process. That's by 2030, we can shout to the world that we have achieved what we have pledged in the NDC. With that, I thank you.
Thank you yang berbahagia Dato' Dr. Ching Tu. Terima kasih. Right, we'd like to also welcome YB Tuan Nik Nazmi bin Nik Ahmad present with us today. Please put your hands together once again. Thank you for being here, for gracing us also with your presence. And now, ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed with our next agenda, okay, we'll be having the Mayor Dialogue. Okay, but before that, I would like to once again remind all participants and everyone present here today, I would like to invite all participants to submit your declaration at the pledge wall located just outside the hall. All right, so let us collectively affirm our commitment towards sustainability and meaningful action. And before we start with our next session today, where we will be having our moderator and our speakers, okay, for those of you who wish to submit your questions, please do scan the QR code that we will be displaying. There you go. Please submit your question here. Scan the QR code and we will revert the questions to the moderator once we are done with our session. So looks like we're ready. We're good to go. Okay. And now, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to our next segment, Mayor's Dialogue, the Future of Cities. Before we begin, allow me to introduce our moderator for this session. She's a bilingual event MC, a trainer, and a seasoned media professional with over a decade of experience in communications. Beyond television, she is passionate about education and communication, training individuals in public speaking and creating engaging content to simplify English learning for her social media audience. Please welcome on stage Miss Nadia Azmi. All right. Next, let us welcome our first panelist, a seasoned sustainability and environmental management professional with extensive experience in corporate strategy, policy development, and stakeholder engagement. Passionate about advancing Malaysia's green transition, he has played a key role in promoting sustainable practices across industries and fostering collaboration between government, business and communities to drive impactful climate action and sustainable growth. Please welcome on stage Yang Berusaha TPR Nazri Abdullah. Dipersilakan. And our next panelist joining us all the way from Indonesia is the Region Bupati of Banyumas. He brings with him decades of experience in business, governance and community leadership. He's dedicated to driving people-centered economic growth, strengthening education and healthcare, and promoting sustainable infrastructure and transparent governance. Please welcome Mr. Sadewo Tri Lastiono. So with that, Nadia, looks like the stage is yours. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Tasneem. Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera. Very good afternoon, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests. Glad that Yang Berhormat Dik Nazmi can also be here to join us. Glad to have you here. Saya agak gemetar sedikit kerana baru sahaja diberitahu I have to conduct this in 2 languages. But yes, as per my introduction, I am a bilingual moderator at MC, so I will try my best to conduct this in both languages. Alright. Dan seperti yang kita punya pengacara sudah diberitahu ataupun memberitahu kami, there will be a Q&A session where we will open up the floor for a Q&A, and I think you will see the QR code soon on the screen for you to be redirected to Slido. So please do key in your questions in both English and also Bahasa Melayu ataupun Bahasa Indonesia for both of our panelists as soon as this session starts. Okay, so once again, good afternoon everyone. Welcome, yes, to the Mayor's Dialogue, the Future of Cities. Although this is called the Mayor's Dialogue, unfortunately, the Mayor of Kuala Lumpur was not able to join us due to unforeseen circumstances, but it's right, we still have a very good lineup of speakers here with me. So I'd like to start off with some statistics, ladies and gentlemen. Now, more than half of ASEAN's people live in urban areas or cities. They're buzzing with jobs, ideas, and culture, but that energy also puts real strain on housing, transport, and of course, the environment. So climate impacts are hitting harder, digital divides persist, and cities must do more with less. So across ASEAN, our cities are not only the engines of economic growth, but also the front lines of the climate crisis, and local governments are uniquely positioned to turn national sustainability ambitions into tangible community-driven action. Today, we are honored to have with us 2 outstanding city leaders, I must say, who are showing how visionary local leadership can translate sustainability into everyday life. Originally, yes, we were supposed to have the KL mayor, but due to unforeseen circumstances, she's not able to join us. So today we have still a very good lineup of speakers. Nonetheless, we have on my left, town planner, Nazri Abdullah. He is the Executive Director Director of Planning from the Kuala Lumpur City Hall, or DBKL. Previously, you were with Plan Malaysia and you recently joined the DBKL team. So welcome. Let's give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Dan dari Indonesia, di sebelah kiri beliau adalah Pak Sadewo Tri Lastiano, Regent of Banyumas ataupun Bupati Banyumas. Betul tak Pak Sadewo? Betul ya. Dan selamat datang Pak. Kita sangat bertuah untuk kehadiran Pak di sini. Yeah. Okay. Now, so yes, before we start, just another reminder, key in your questions, your thoughts that you would like to forward to our panels through the Slido app that we will show you on the screen shortly. All right. Let's set the context a bit, ladies and gentlemen. The overarching theme of the summit is putting communities at the center of sustainability. Sustainability, kelestarian. Kalau dalam bahasa Indonesia, keberlanjutan. Lestari juga digunakan. Yeah, dan it is a buzzword right now, sustainability, SDG, ESG. So we want to know from our speakers on the stage right now, what does sustainability or what does putting communities at the center of sustainability mean to them? We start with Town Planner Nazri.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Thank you, Ms. Moderator. On behalf of KL Mayor, we would like to say thank you to the organizer for inviting us for the big event today. For Kuala Lumpur, communities are the main focus in development because we build the city with the resident, not just for them. This is the keyword for us. And on the other hand, PTKL 2040, Kuala Lumpur Pelan Tempatan Kuala Lumpur or Kuala Lumpur Local Plan, gazetted in May 2025, is widen the opportunities to strengthen participation in our planning, system. As we know, in our Act, Federal Territory Act, Planning Act 267, when we do a planning, we have to refer, we want to approve the plan, local plan, we have to engage with the local. This is very important for us because we have to receive, we open for objection, suggestion and everything. So we have a very good committee to evaluate all the suggestion, all of the what we call suggestion, objection from the public into to our blend in our plan. So I think from when the act is approved in 1982 until now, this is first time DBKL gazetted our local plan. This is first time in May 2025. So this is a very, for us, this is a plan not for DBKL, but also for the public and for everybody. This is the plan for everybody because we prepare the plan with the people. This is the keyword for us, so that the plan is not us. It's not about us. It's about the people, so they have to refer. This is for investment and everything. So PTK 2040 for us is a plan for everybody in the city. So the biggest risk now is the simple. Is a rapid urban growth. At the same time, we have the city have to adapt to the extreme climate, including flood and everything. Because rapid development, I think one of the challenges in city managers or city urban manager is the rapid development. For audience information, Malaysia the population in our urban area is about, I think, around 82% people living in the cities. So this is a challenge for us because when we prepare a plan, we need to have to hear everything for the people. So that's why in DBKL, I think the plan, so we have to prepare, we have to plan for everything with the people. This is because I think communities is very important in the city because we plan for the cities, we plan for the communities. This is my first.
Tauflan and Nazri, we'll get into the participatory element of integrating the communities into your planning. But when we talk about sustainability, why is it important for communities, untuk masyarakat, menghayati, memahami kepentingan kelestarian? Why is it important for communities to be able to embrace and understand the importance of sustainability?
So we have to balance between the development and the community needs. This is we have to balance. For the investor, for the developer, they need to develop. At the same time, for the people, they have to open space. They need to walk. They need to fresh air and everything. So that's why in our preparation of land, so we have to balance between the people needs and the investment plan. This is very important. For example, in KL, in our PTKL, one of our suggestion is we have planned around 254 kilometers green connectors between. That means we plan each communities. We have around connect the communities. We have around 254 kilometers. That means the community they want to a green area for the environment. So that's why in our plan we have to take into all the consideration, the public, the environment, and sustainability and everything, because we need our city to grow. At the same time, we need sustainability in our cities. This is very important to us. So that's why in our plan, for example, although in our act, when we prepare the plan, so I think when we take all the consideration for the public, I think the plan is already can be used for every. But in our practice, we introduce Rule 3. That means we still give public in some cases. In some cases, we give them to give opinion, and we give them what the thing about the particular development for some areas. I think we give a chance to the public because we want them to feel the development and also the environment around them. This is very important to us.
To achieve that balance is easier said than done. When we look on paper, yes, it's easy to write it down, but to execute is not easy. Yes. Pak Sadewa, bagaimana perspektifnya dari Indonesia? Apakah kaitan masyarakat dan kelestarian? Apakah kepentingannya bersama?
Terima kasih. Terima kasih atas undangan dari MGTC dan Pusat SDG Negara dalam acara Kuala Lumpur Sustainable System. Pemerintah Banyumas menaruh perhatian besar dalam isu lingkungan dan keberlanjutan. Daerah kami sangat berbeda tentunya dengan Kuala Lumpur karena mayoritas penduduk wilayah kami itu tinggal di pedesaan dan di wilayah-wilayah yang susah terjangkau. Beberapa tahun yang lalu, kami menghadapi isu darurat sampah yang merupakan permasalahan strategis di daerah kami, dan bukan hanya di daerah kami, mungkin di seluruh dunia. Landfill kami, tempat pembuangan akhir sampah kami penuh dengan sampah, kemudian menimbulkan protes dari masyarakat akibat pencemaran yang terjadi. Pemerintah tentu tidak bisa sendirian, tidak akan mampu sendirian untuk menyelesaikan permasalahan tersebut. Sehingga partisipasi dari masyarakat sangat dibutuhkan. Kami melibatkan masyarakat dalam sistem pengelolaan sampah dengan membentuk kelompok-kelompok masyarakat yang tersebar di seluruh wilayah Kabupaten Banyumas untuk bersama-sama menanggulangi permasalahan pengelolaan sampah di Kabupaten Banyumas. Anda bisa membaca lebih detail terkait sistem pengelolaan sampah yang kami kembangkan di buklet yang sudah kami bagikan. Tentu saja kami menyadari bahwa kesadaran masyarakat dalam tema lingkungan dan berkelanjutan itu masih sangat minim di Banyumas. Tantangan terbesar yang kami hadapi adalah bagaimana untuk menumbuhkan kesadaran masyarakat untuk ikut berpartisipasi mewujudkan lingkungan yang berkelanjutan. Spesifik di wilayah kami di Banyumas adalah bagaimana kami dapat mempertahankan kesadaran masyarakat yang sudah tumbuh bahwa pengelolaan sampah adalah tanggung jawab bersama, bukan hanya tanggung jawab pemerintah. Ya, gitu Pak.
Kita akan terangkan dengan lebih lanjut sebentar lagi ya Pak Sadewa. Sebelum itu soalan seterusnya untuk Town Planner Nazri. Okay, let's begin here at Kuala Lumpur. It's just apt that we're having this summit right smack in the city centre. And if there's one climate concern that Malaysia has been plagued with, it is with floods, and the city areas are not an exception to that. So if I pull out some statistics, the frequency of large flood has increased since 2020, and 8 major floods were recorded in 2021 compared to an average of 2 per year in the preceding period. Yes, it's a normal yearly occurrence to us, but the implications, we must remember, are severe. So between 2008 and 2022, floods have displaced over 900,000 Malaysians. Not only that, floods, of course, cause fatalities as well. Now, Kuala Lumpur, Town Planner Nazri, it's envisioned to be a smart city that is safe, secure, clean, and green. DBKL has shifted from designing cities around infrastructure to designing them around the needs as for the most vulnerable, like you've mentioned just now. And this is all encompassed under your Smart City Plan, Master Plan City for All for 2021 to 2025. So how will this shift in strategy help us overcome the worsening climate conditions? Because that we cannot control and that we cannot deny.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moderator. One of the issues, I think, is about the flood and also the traffic jam. This is two main issues in Kuala Lumpur. So that in our climate change, Climate Action Plan 2050, we introduced a few policy to be implemented. One of these is a nature-based solution to solve a flood. So we have around 24 retention pond, how to mitigate the flood in our area. So we have around Kuala Lumpur, because Kuala Lumpur is quite unique because we are in the middle of the Selangor state. So it's not come from the water is not come from us, it's come from Selangor and sometimes from Pahang. So in the middle, we had to have a nature-based solution. It's very important for us. So we have planned in 24 retention pond around the Kuala Lumpur so that we can mitigate the flood in our area. So on other side, we also introduce what we call traffic jam. Is also we have around MRT one. MRT, LRT, what we call it, everything. We have rail-based transportation. But in our PTK 24, we targeted 30% of the public. We use the 70%. We use the public transport. So this is a long-term planning. So that for now we introduce a few approach to develop for the area. For example, TOD concept, transit-oriented development. So in the station for the rail base, so we introduce TOD. So we give some incentive for development so that we encourage people to stay and live and work in the area, so that they less use private transport. I think it's quite difficult. I think this is our target. 70% we use public transport in 2040. So to create an environment, we also we impose in our development, 30% of the development, we impose 30% should have open area for that particular development. For example, 30%. Because for the area, this is for the 30% for that area. But for the overall Kuala Lumpur, we targeted around 20, or for 1% around 20 meters square for they have open space. It's around, I think, 4,700 we targeted for open space in Kuala Lumpur. So this is our planning, so that we have, beside we want to the sustainability, so at the same time we try to mitigate the flood, and also how to reduce the traffic to enter the Kuala Lumpur. This is a very hard, it's very tough implementation because we cannot sekat orang bring the car to the city center. So that this is the long term. Maybe we hope that with the introduction of TOD, we hope people will stay at a certain area so that we can reduce the traffic to Kuala Lumpur. Yes.
When you talk about public transportation, TOD, transit-oriented developments, you are retrofitting. You are putting things or elements or developments into what's already there, what's already bustling and busy with so many things going on, with so many people already situated there. So it's a dense area, and it's not easy to retrofit something after how many, after many, many years. Who in this room, just a quick poll, have been affected by floods before? Raise your hand. Floods. What about traffic congestion? You see, so sustainability affects us all. So it's very important that we also as the community implement or execute our responsibility. If we have the opportunity to take public transport, that helps into creating that sustainable element in our lives, right? But yes, again, easier said than done, Town Planner Nazri.
Yeah.
What about the role of AI? So I have to ask this: when we are doing this, all this town planning and retrofitting, we have AI technology, all these data-driven tools that we are using now in everything that we do. How is that being applied when it comes to town planning?
Okay. One of the flagship introduced by our mayor is a digital twin. Digital twin, that means we have one, we call it as Kuala Lumpur Observatory. I think this is one center, what we call it operational center, that we collect all the data about Kuala Lumpur. Then we feed in our Kuala Lumpur Urban Observatory. We call it as a digital twin. For this case, I think one of the, for future, I think for now and the future, one of the product our target in our digital twin, we have, when we make edition, we have based on the, what we call the evidence base. So when we want to make a decision based on the evidence base, so we need to collect, we need to integrate all the data from the, I think from the internal department. We have around 34 to 25 departments. So we have to integrate all the data from our department, and also we have to integrate between the external department. For example, a DOSM, a JPS, and everything. This is our target. Then we develop, I think, we have a digital twin in 2 or 3 years coming. So this is very important because when we make edition, we should base on the evidence base. This is very important for us. So now I think nowadays we can sometimes we base on the guideline, we based on the plan, everything. So I think in the future, we have to refer all the things to the public, communities, children, on everything. That's why we need to integrate our KLUO, Urban Observatory, to the other department inside and outside our department. This is very important for us.
Okey, Pak Sadewa, belum terlambat untuk mengucapkan selamat ataupun tahniah di atas penghargaan ataupun anugerah yang diraih untuk Sustainable Environmental Management under the 6th ASEAN Environmentally Sustainable Cities Award yang baru-baru ini diadakan di Langkawi. Jadi, ladies and gentlemen, let's congratulate Pak Sadewa for Banyumas for winning an award recently in September for its successful Sustainable Environmental Management under the 6th ASEAN Environmentally Sustainable Cities Award. Jadi kita panggil undang Pak Sadewa di sini kerana sebab yang istimewa ya. Jadi apa yang telah dilaksanakan di Banyumas adalah desentralisasi pengelolaan sampah ataupun decentralized waste management, yang bermakna tadi Pak Sadewa ada sebut sedikit di mana tanggungjawab pengelolaan sampah itu diagihkan kepada masyarakat lokal, kepada desa-desa dan sebagainya. So what they have done in Banyumas is to decentralize waste management, distributing responsibility and capacity for waste management to community groups, local villages and smaller facilities rather than relying on one large top-down operation. So, kita dengar memang bukan mudah. Bagaimana dilaksanakan? Bagaimana Pak Sadewa melaksanakan ini bersama masyarakat di Banyumas?
Oke, terima kasih. Kami beruntung karena secara politik, regulasi, dan internal di pemerintah Kabupaten Banyumas, kami mendapatkan dukungan yang sangat besar dalam mengembangkan sistem yang telah kami implementasikan dengan melibatkan kelompok-kelompok masyarakat yang saya jadi jelaskan. Ini juga tidak terlepas dari aspirasi masyarakat yang memang membutuhkan penyelesaian terkait dengan pengelolaan sampah di Banyumas. Waktu itu darurat sampah pasar Banyumas. Tantangan terbesar yang justru kami hadapi adalah mengubah kebiasaan dan pola pikir masyarakat yang sebelumnya seluruh tanggung jawab penyelesaian sampah itu dibebankan, diserahkan kepada pemerintah. Merubah pola pikir agar mereka berpikir menjadi ikut berpartisipasi dalam pengelolaan sampah. Untuk memfasilitasi partisipasi masyarakat yang sudah tumbuh, saat ini kami telah membangun 39 fasilitas pengelolaan sampah yang tersebar di seluruh wilayah Banyumas yang sepenuhnya dikelola oleh masyarakat lokal melalui kelompok masyarakat. Di awal proses penerapan sistem ini kami juga memberikan insentif kepada kelompok masyarakat dalam bentuk uang. Saat ini kami sudah tidak memberikan insentif tersebut, namun justru sudah dapat menghasilkan nilai ekonomi dari pengelolaan sampah di wilayah masing-masing dengan penjualan hasil pengelolaan sampah. Gitu, Pak.
Penjualan hasil sampah. Adakah itu cara untuk menawan hati masyarakat untuk mereka melaksanakan tanggungjawab ini? Kerana bukan mudah kita nak alihkan tanggungjawab itu kepada masyarakat dan mereka harus melaksanakannya setiap hari, bukan pada satu waktu sahaja. Kerana di Malaysia kita ada pelbagai inisiatif dan usaha dari segi untuk mencapai sustainability. Umpamanya benda-benda kecil sahaja seperti menggunakan kontainer makanan daripada menggunakan plastik, dan juga kami disarankan untuk mengasingkan sampah mengikut jenis-jenis sampah. Ya, itu memang ada, tetapi pelaksanaannya itu menjadi satu persoalan. I don't know about you guys. Have you guys been implementing all those initiatives? Kerana tabiat itu sukar untuk kita ubah sebagai masyarakat. Bagaimana di Banyumas?
Di Banyumas untuk perkotaan sudah, Banyumas ibu kotanya di kota Purwokerto ya. Untuk perkotaan kesadaran dari masyarakat sudah mulai tumbuh. Bahkan dari rumah sebagian sudah mulai mau memisahkan antara organik dan anorganik. Ini terus kita tumbuhkan supaya kesadaran itu tidak hanya di daerah perkotaan. Banyumas itu meliputi 140.000 hektar wilayahnya. 27 kecamatan itu. Kecamatan itu apa sih? Kecamatan itu di bawah kabupaten ada kecamatan gitu ya. Penduduknya itu 1,8 juta lebih. Sehingga tidak mudah untuk menerapkan sistem ini, dan ini bukan sistem yang tiba-tiba bisa diterapkan, tetapi membutuhkan waktu yang banyak seperti tadi saya jelaskan. Awalnya kami mensubsidi ya kepada pengelola sampah itu, kelompok masyarakat dengan memberikan uang kepada mereka, tetapi saat ini subsidinya sudah nol. Karena sampah yang dikelola itu dipilah, plastik bisa dijual, kemudian yang organik ada yang dibuat maggot, ya, untuk pakan maggot itu untuk pakan ternak. Kemudian ada juga yang untuk membuat pupuk organik, dan yang terakhir nanti dicacah menjadi RDF untuk bahan bakar pengganti batu bara di pabrik-pabrik semen yang ada di wilayah Kabupaten Banyumas. Itu, Mbak.
8 juta penduduk di Banyumas.
1,8 juta.
Okey, di Banyumas saja?
Di Kabupaten Banyumas saja.
Ya, itu ramai, sangat besar.
Lebih besar dari Kuala Lumpur.
Ya, berapa lama yang diambil untuk model Banyumas ini betul-betul berjaya?
Kita mulai bisa menerapkan dan subsidi mulai dicabut setelah 2 tahun kita terapkan. Sebelumnya kita mensubsidi betul, tetapi setiap kelompok masyarakat kita bikin, kalau di sana bahasanya hanggar ya. kita bikinkan bangunan dan di dalamnya ada mesin-mesin pengolahan sampah. Ini yang kita berikan dari pemerintah, kemudian sekarang pengelolaannya sudah diberikan ke mereka, hasilnya yang terakhir berupa RDF itu dijual ke pabrik semen, dikelola oleh kelompok masyarakat. Mereka mandiri dengan uang sendiri, bisa menggaji karyawan-karyawannya tanpa subsidi dari pemerintah lagi.
Jadi subsidi itu memerlukan dana daripada pemerintah. Nanti saya tanya nanti, kemudian ada satu soalan berkenaan funding ya dengan duit. Jadi apa yang membantu juga dengan model ini dapat dilaksanakan dengan jayanya adalah tiada banyak tantangan politik ataupun cabaran regulatori dan juga dapat kerjasama daripada masyarakat. Jadi itu mungkin apa yang boleh dicontohi untuk masyarakat di sini, bukan saja di Kuala Lumpur tetapi di seluruh Malaysia sebenarnya. Okey, saya beralih kepada Town Planner Nazri. Alright, so we talked a lot about participatory elements of getting the communities involved in the town planning and the executing of DBKL's initiatives. So Kuala Lumpur Town Hall COP, yes, is a climate dialogue where it brings together citizens, businesses and partners to shape climate policies that directly affect communities. As we've all seen, yes, it affects us all. So the city is also moving forward on putting children at the center of planning and policy with the establishment of the Child Council. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And these are groundbreaking steps in participatory governance. So what mechanisms need to be institutionalized to institutionalize local climate voices into national planning or development of policies?
Okay, Ms. Manetta, in simple word, everything, every program, every project we plan or we want to execute in our development, we have our DB or our principle, we have to engage the public. Any program, for example, for approval of project, of course, we need engagement with the other thing. For example, we want to make some plan for project. For example, program. For example, we want to go to Royong everything. So we have to engage the public. We have, I think, around every parliamentary area, we have what we call it pegawai parliament. So they will engage all the public in our area when we want to do any program with the public in all the Kuala Lumpur in our, I think about 11 parliamentary area in Kuala Lumpur. So that in this case, it's not about children, it's not about everything. We have to engage. So I think this is our direction from our DB, so that we don't want to we have received a complaint, because we need, because when we do something, we need cooperation between the public and also the communities, and with every plan, every project and every program, we need a cooperation with the community. So this is, in simple word, we say that in our program, in our project, we have to, our direction, our DB direction is we have to engage the public.
I think it's great that you want to involve children, Gen Zs, teenagers. Yeah. Because right now, if you have, if you do interact with these younger groups of people, they're very green conscious. You know, when they want to go to work, for example, and they go for an interview with an employer, prospective employer, they will ask, what is your green agenda? What is your sustainability agenda? Do you even have one? Yeah. So they take that into account. So it's great that you involve them as well and get their input.
In our local, what we call it as, I think, climate change plan. Mm-hmm. We need their comment. Everybody in our Kuala Lumpur. That's why in our local plan, in our PTKL, so we receive around, I think, around 20,000 plus suggestion, objection from the public. So do you imagine?
That's very encouraging. Yeah. So I have to ask you, Town Planner Nazri, do you think we will be able to, we is at least Kuala Lumpur lah for a start, be able to implement the Banyumas model where we decentralize waste management? Do you think Malaysians are ready for that? Saya dengar ya jawapan daripada Pak Sadoyo. Susah.
Okay. In KL, we have around 200 program. We call it one community, one recycle. This is our
One
focus,
community, one
recycle.
recycle.
One C, one R.
Okay.
So in our pledge sheet, so our DB we want to increase the program maybe 250. So now we have around 200 program. This is our focus for the because we have we have the program 1C, 1R, especially in our area for what we call it perumahan awam, perumahan pemilik. This is because we have a officer there, so we are easy for us to do a program 1C, 1R for the perumahan awam, because I think we need to have a cooperation between how we want to, because same like biomass, so we want to reduce we want to reduce at the source. It's very important for us. So because the rubbish, everything, we want to reduce it from the source. We want to separation at the source and everything. So maybe we want to, we have around 200 program. Yeah.
But Tong Plai and Nazri, when we talk about the future of cities, you know, the what needs to be done starts now in present time. So that means at all levels, schools, you know, education needs to be able to spread that awareness of loving Mother Nature. You need to instill that from the school level, or even, you know, from preschool, because they are our future, essentially, the children. Okay, so Pak Sadewo, your award-winning decentralizing waste blueprint integrates 3 key innovations. 3 are waste banks, refuse-derived fuel, and maggot composting. Jadi, desentralisasi pengelolaan sampah melibatkan bank sampah 3R, bahan bakar RDF itu, dan juga bahan bakar dari sampah, dan juga kompos maggot, ya. Jadi daripada semua ini, elemen yang mana yang paling penting peranannya? Which of these 3 elements was the single most crucial driver in achieving the triple impact of reducing landfill volume, generating energy, and also creating green jobs? Pak Sadewo.
Untuk saat ini ya, untuk saat ini yang paling diandalkan untuk penanganan sampah adalah RDF. Karena penggunaannya kontinu, ada pabrik semen besar di wilayah sana, Cilacap ya, kabupaten tetangga, dan di Banyumas juga ada. Satu hari membutuhkan sekitar 300 ton RDF. Itu yang kita utamakan. Sedangkan untuk bahan mangkot, kemudian pupuk gitu, sudah berjalan dari dulu. Nah, untuk finalnya, untuk diketahui aja, kami telah berhasil mengelola sampah sebesar 85%. Jadi dari total sampah yang ada di Banyumas, 85% sudah terkelola dengan baik. Yang 15% ini masih di desa-desa yang masih menggunakan cara-cara tradisional, membuat lubang sendiri kemudian dibakar. Ini yang sedang kita selesaikan PR-nya, dan kami yakin sebelum tahun 2029 kami bisa menyelesaikan 100% sampah di Kabupaten Banyumas menjadi zero waste. Itu saja.
Mungkin Pak Sadewa, saya patut tanya dari awal tadi. Mungkin Pak Sadewa boleh berikan satu gambaran bagaimana rutin harian masyarakat di Banyumas dalam melaksanakan pengelolaan sampah sebegini. Bagaimana? Mungkin boleh berikan kami sedikit gambaran apakah yang perlu mereka lalui setiap hari.
Ini ada kebiasaan yang awalnya dipaksakan. Kami membuat sistem pengelolaan sampah dari hulu sampai ke hilir. Hulu itu berarti kami yang upstream ya, paling tinggi. Itu dari pemilahan sampah di tingkat rumah tangga, di tingkat keluarga. Keluarga itu sedang kita mulai dibiasakan, belum seluruhnya. Dibiasakan mulai memilah sampah organik dan inorganik di tempat yang berbeda. Kemudian kelompok sosial masyarakat yang dibentuk di wilayah tersebut, mereka mengambil sampah dari keluarga-keluarga. Dan mereka mendapatkan uang.
Perlu ada satu wakil ke bagaimana mereka bekerja sama sesama sendiri?
Itu kelompok masyarakat
Ya.
yang dibentuk oleh masyarakat setempat.
Okay.
Ya, mereka kita berikan fasilitas seperti motor roda 3 untuk pengangkutan. Ya, mengambil kepada rumah-rumah. Diambil, dibawa ke hanggar yang tadi saya ceritakan. Kemudian di hanggar itu dipilah-pilah. Ada sampahnya, kemudian yang plastik, diambil yang bisa dijual. Kemudian ada yang dibuat untuk maggot, bahan maggot. Ada organik yang dibuat untuk pupuk. Ya. Kemudian sisanya dicacah. Sisa ini yang dicacah kemudian dijadikan bahan RDF. Jadi harapan saya ini masih panjang, targetnya 2029. Harapan saya seluruh Kabupaten Banyumas setiap ada 39 titik itu yang sudah ada, kami masih membutuhkan sekitar 12 titik lagi akan betul-betul zero waste. Seluruh yang ada titik-titik hanggar yang ada di Kabupaten Banyumas itu bisa menyelesaikan sampah di tempatnya. Dari hanggar itu sudah memproduksi RDF dan bisa mengirim sendiri ke pabrik-pabrik semen. Itu saja.
Terima kasih Pak Sadewa. Jadi mungkin saya ingin bertanya kepada kru, if there's any questions, we can flash them right now and address the questions from the audience. If not, let me go to Town Planner Nazri. Now, Town Planner Nazri, many cities struggle, of course, with funding. That's forever the biggest hurdle. Funding when it comes to green infrastructure, adaptive systems or urban retrofit programs. So what can be done to catalyze financing to support cities in this transition? Maybe are there any incentive schemes under national planning to reward, like what they do at Banyumas, to reward sustainable planning or sustainable practice?
Okay, thank you. In our local plan PTKL 2040, I think we identify around 139 areas to be developed as urban redevelopment. We call because 139 area identified as urban redevelopment for the future. So in this case, when we prepare a PTKL 2040, we already what we call it, we already distribute the density, the plot ratio, maybe it's quite, it is a term of planning, to the area. But for the 139 area, we give some incentive to the developer. For example, we give 50%, for example, 50% plot ratio and density for the 139 area. So that we can increase the plot ratio from, for example, from 1 to 6. So with some area for involved identified as urban development, we can increase to 1, maybe 1 to 9 plus 3, 50% from the 6. So this is our incentive, how we want to encourage, for the example, for urban redevelopment, to encourage the owner or developer to develop for the 139 areas in our Kuala Lumpur. So another thing, our DB introduced 4 Ps, public, private, people, partnership. For this case, we encourage private to develop some development of some project identified in our PTKL, for example, pocket park. So this is one of the way, so they can give some, we have endowment, so when they can invest, they can develop, they can build or can develop one area for pocket park, so that the public can use the public park and everything for their for everything, like for leisure and everything. This is how we will develop. Besides, we identify in our local plan, we also encourage 4 Ps for development in our area.
Saya mau tanya juga tentang dana ataupun funding daripada Pak Sadewa. Subsidi diberikan pada mulanya tetapi ditarik selepas 2 tahun ya, sudah tiada subsidi. Bagaimana Banyumas mengaplikasi ataupun melaksanakan ini dengan dana yang diperoleh? Bagaimana diperoleh? Banyakkah yang diperlukan ataupun itu menjadi satu cabaran duitnya?
Jadi memang awalnya berat ya. Perlu diketahui bahwa tahun 2018 anggaran dari pemerintah Kabupaten Banyumas dalam 1 tahun untuk pengelolaan sampah itu mencapai 40 miliar rupiah. Tetapi saat ini kami hanya membutuhkan maksimal 10 miliar rupiah untuk penanganan pengelolaan sampah dengan hasil di mana 85% sampah sudah bisa kami kelola dengan baik. Sisanya 15% tinggal kita penambahan hanggar-hanggar pengelolaan sampah. Jadi saat ini kami sudah melakukan efisiensi anggaran yang digunakan adalah 25% dari 40 miliar. Kami hanya menggunakan 25 sebesar 10 miliar rupiah. Dan masyarakat mendapat keuntungan pendapatan dari penjualan RDF, kemudian bahan makot dan pupuk-pupuk organik. Untuk diketahui juga, dengan sistem ini kami bisa menciptakan 1.500 lapangan kerja. Ada 1.500 pekerja yang ikut bekerja di tempat-tempat pengelolaan sampah yang 39 buah itu. Jadi ini bukan hanya tentang bagaimana mengelola sampah, tetapi juga tentang bagaimana menciptakan lapangan pekerjaan yang di tempat kami memang cukup tinggi penganggurannya. Itu Mbak.
Jadi sangat positif model Banyumas ini. Ia jauh lebih efisien daripada yang sebelumnya, menjana atau mencipta pekerjaan untuk masyarakat setempat.
Ya, betul.
Ya, dan juga kos yang diperlukan jauh lebih rendah.
25%.
Ya, 25%. Jadi daripada apa yang boleh disimpulkan Pak Sudewo, dukungan seperti apa? Ini adalah soalan daripada audiens ya. Dukungan seperti apa yang paling Bapak perlukan dari pemerintah pusat, sektor swasta atau dari mitra antarabangsa untuk mewujudkan visi Banyumas yang berkelanjutan dan inklusif?
Oke, alhamdulillah Kabupaten Banyumas beberapa bulan yang lalu menerima dana hibah bantuan dari UNCDF 150.000 US dollar ya. Kemudian pemerintah pusat juga menjadikan Banyumas sebagai role model di Indonesia sehingga kucuran anggaran agar penyelesaian sampah di Banyumas itu dalam bahasa Indonesia paripurna menuju zero waste betul-betul. Sehingga pemerintah pusat mengucurkan anggaran. Dengan sistem yang kami buat di luar pemerintah, ada investor-investor lokal yang mulai tertarik. Ini baru saja, Bu. Monggo dolan ke Banyumas, nanti saya tunjukkan. Nah, mereka mengambil satu hanggar sampah, kemudian dibikin mesin pengolahan sampah dengan kapasitas 10 ton per hari. Harganya sekitar 1,5 miliar rupiah, 1.500.000.000 rupiah. Investor itu yang memasang mesin, kemudian investor itu bekerja sama MOU, Memorandum of Understanding dengan KSM, mengelola bersama-sama dan KSM dan kelompok sosial masyarakat gitu dengan kelompok masyarakat itu bersama-sama bagi hasil penjualan RDF ke pabrik-pabrik semen. Regulasi yang ditetapkan untuk pabrik semen yang ada di Kabupaten Banyumas ada semen Bima. Saya minta mereka tidak menerima RDF dari kabupaten lain, dari wilayah lain sebelum RDF dari Kabupaten Banyumas habis. Dan itu sudah berlangsung. Alhamdulillah sekarang sudah ada satu investor yang memasang dan katanya untung. Harapannya 39 itu sudah tidak mengandalkan lagi mesinnya dari pemerintah, tapi dari investor-investor itu. Tapi ya kami masih meminta anggaran juga dari Kementerian Lingkungan Hidup dan kabar baik terakhir dari UNCDF katanya akan mengucurkan anggaran lagi ke Kabupaten Banyumas sebesar 300.000 US dollar. Itu Mbak.
Semoga semuanya berjaya nanti ya Pak Sudewo. Jadi kita ada soalan lagi daripada audience, Tamu Planet Nazri. You have mentioned that rapid urban development is a key issue for Kuala Lumpur. So could you share what steps DBKL have taken or is planning to take to manage this challenge, particularly in aligning central and municipal policies to better address citywide issues such as flooding, transportation and infrastructure coordination? So the planning that you are involved in, it involves a lot of municipalities, right? A lot of areas within the communities that you need to work together.
I think I give us some history about our PTKL 2040. So I think around Malaysia, for the peninsula of Malaysia, most of the state they use Act 172. They have a local plan. So they gazette all the local plan. I think maybe in 2000 until now they come to almost the second version of local plan, gazetted local plan. But for the BKL, this is first time our local plan gazetted in May 2025. So I think in the future, how we want to manage the rapid development between the transportation, everything. So we give a framework for the developers, for the public to have a look and to plan the development according to local plan. This is very important for us. So when we plan, prepare the local plan, so we give a ample, I think, space for the public to give opinion and everything. So also to the developers how they want to develop the area. So at this time, for us, local plan give a framework for everybody. This is the future of Kuala Lumpur in 2040. So that means we balance within development. I think we maybe some developers we give I think the heart for development. For example, flow ratio 1:6. You cannot more than that, except you have a incentive for a few things. So if not, so you lock at the 6 flow ratio. That means you can develop. I think it's the planning term 6. So you cannot more than that. This is our principle. So that at the same time, so we also plan for the green area. Beside we lock the flow ratio, density, everything. We also lock the green area, open space, and everything in our local plan. So this is how I think in future, this is what Kuala Lumpur look like is based on the PTK 2440. So this is I think for the future, I think we have about 6 months after gazetted. I think this is first time, I think the public and also the developer, investor, you should study, look at the local plan. This is the future of local plan. Because in our local plan, we balance between the development, between the transportation, open space, and everything in our local plan.
Planner Nazri, you must have heard while we want to balance the green, we want to become a green lung, right? We want to have green lung, green spaces, green areas. But at the same time, in tandem, we want developments to also occur, to happen. So I don't know whether what kind of sentiments they share, but some of people are of the opinion, you may have heard this, we have too many shopping malls, too many shopping complexes. You know, we don't have enough any more spaces or land in Kuala Lumpur to have this green area that we're talking about. What is your thought? What are your thoughts on this?
I think our target is still, we have 4,700. This is our green area. And also, our target is 20 square meter for everybody. They have open space. I think for the shopping complex, I think maybe that's why one of the, I think last Sunday, our minister, they launched, we call it as a guideline for repurpose. Repurpose, they mean some area, because I think a building with the less than, I think more than 30% occupancy, I think kekosongan, empty 30%, and also more than 15 years, we have a lot of building, I think around 97 building identified by NAPIC, this is need to be repurposed. For example, now people, maybe investors, they like to have a building with a smart element in the building. But the old building, I think more than 50 years ago, they don't have any, what is daya penarik to the building. Yeah, so that's why a lot, I think 197, I think around 97, maybe around building that we identify to be, we need to repurpose the building. Maybe we give some incentive for them, maybe for the office space. So now that we have a lot of office space, we encourage to them, they can change to hotel or maybe to the Soho, everything. We give some guideline for them. For example, old building, I think one of the example, hotel, I think Campbell, before this is office space. Now it become the hotel. I think Hotel Campbell. I think Hotel Campbell. This is one of the we call it guideline for the repurpose. Nowadays, how we transform repurpose the building to another use that without change the height and also the parking. We try to increase of the height, also the parking space.
In a way, we implement the 3R concept lah. Reuse, recycle the building in this context though. Okay, so Pak Sadewo, objektif ataupun visi yang dilihat adalah untuk mencapai zero waste. Belum lagi, tetapi on track ke sana. Jadi bagaimana sebelum sampai ke zero waste itu, apa yang diimplementasi ataupun dilaksanakan di Banyumas dipanggil ekonomi circular ya, circular economy kerana integrasi dengan masyarakat kan. Jadi bagaimana Banyumas ataupun Pak Sadewo sebagai bupati di sana mengukur dampak daripada inisiatif ekonomi circular yang dijalankan. So, how do you measure the impact of the circular economy initiatives, both in terms of environmental outcomes and also community well-being? Kalau tadi Pak Sadewa sebut masyarakat menghadapi darurat sampah, bagaimana dengan desentralisasi pengelolaan sampah ini mengharumkan kehidupan mereka, menambah baik kehidupan mereka?
Sebetulnya sederhana, pada saat masyarakat bisa menerima hasil, bahwa masyarakat itu tahu bahwa sampah itu kalau dikelola dengan baik bisa menghasilkan uang, intinya itu. Jadi setiap hanggar yang dikelola oleh kelompok masyarakat ternyata bisa menghasilkan uang. Yang tadi saya ceritakan, kami bisa mempekerjakan sekitar lebih dari 1.500 orang di 39 hanggar itu. Yang kami butuhkan saat ini untuk menuju ke zero waste itu 12 hanggar lagi. Yang kemarin kan kita biayai dengan anggaran pemerintah daerah, anggaran pemerintah pusat. Harapan saya 12 hanggar ini nanti akan bisa dibiayai oleh pihak ketiga. Baru saja beberapa bulan yang lalu satu investor mau membiayai hanggar full. Semua mesinnya dibiayai dari investor dengan sistem kerjasama dengan kelompok masyarakat. Dan pengembalian dari investasinya adalah dari hasil penjualan RDF. Yang 12 hanggar ini kalau bisa dimasuki oleh investor, ada investor yang masuk berarti selesai. Tapi kalau tidak ada berarti tentu kami mengharapkan bantuan dari pemerintah pusat. Dan ini sedang kita lakukan pendekatan kepada Kementerian Lingkungan Hidup. Dan mudah-mudahan saya 3 hari yang lalu saya ditelepon Pak Hanif itu Menteri Lingkungan Hidup. Informasinya Kabupaten Banyumas dan Kota Surabaya itu adalah 2 wilayah yang mempunyai predikat pengelolaan sampah terbaik di Indonesia. Tetapi yang paling bagus dengan sistem pengelolaan yang tradisional dengan desentralisasi adalah Banyumas. Informasinya mudah-mudahan benar kami akan mendapatkan loan grant ya, bantuan dari PBB sebesar 100 miliar untuk penyelesaian 12 hanggar sampah. Itu.
Bagaimana tetapi ini dapat menambah baik kualiti kehidupan masyarakat di sana? Mungkin dari segi kesihatan, apa yang boleh dilihat, ya, Pak Sadewa?
Gini, kami yang pertama, penggunaan pyrolysis, ya kan ada pembakaran yang pyrolysis, sudah tidak kami pergunakan. Kami betul-betul memanfaatkan sampah itu untuk bisa didaur ulang. Jadi tidak ada bau-bau seperti di landfill dulu. Landfill itu kan licit ya itu ya, ada licitnya, kemudian bau, kemudian kebakaran. Itu sudah bisa diantisipasi, sudah selesai. Masalah itu sudah selesai di Banyumas. Permasalahannya adalah tinggal menambah jumlah hanggar sebagaimana yang sudah kita dirikan sebanyak 39. Kalau hitungan kami 12 hanggar didirikan, maka persoalan sampah di Kabupaten Banyumas finish. Itu, Pak.
Selain Banyumas, Pak Sadewa, adakah tempat-tempat lain di Indonesia mahu juga mengikuti to replicate apa yang telah Bapak laksanakan di Banyumas ini?
Nah ini Bu, jadi Banyumas itu menjadi tujuan studi banding dari kabupaten-kabupaten lain di Indonesia. Dalam 1 minggu mungkin ada 2, 3, 4 kabupaten datang ke Banyumas. Permasalahannya adalah keberanian dari kepala daerah, keberanian dari wali kota, keberanian dari bupati untuk mengeksekusi hal ini.
Apa yang menghalang mereka?
Biasanya anggaran. Jadi pertama kami lakukan, kami memberikan subsidi berupa uang kepada kelompok masyarakat yang kita bentuk. Ini yang biasanya kepala daerah keberatan. Ini harus dilakukan kan untuk menumbuhkan kesadaran masyarakat. Kemudian mereka bisa mengelola sampah dan sampah itu ternyata bisa menghasilkan uang. Ini harus dipicu, diawali dengan itikat baik dari pemerintah, keberanian dari kepala daerah. Apabila kepala daerah, saya sering ngomong di teman-teman bupati, wali kota yang studi banding di Banyumas, percuma melakukan studi banding kalau teman-teman tidak berani mengeksekusi di lapangan. Awalnya kami betul-betul berat, semua hanggar yang kita bentuk, pegawainya kita bayari dari anggaran pemerintah. Itu kita lakukan selama 2 tahun. Ini yang biasanya tidak bisa dieksekusi oleh kepala daerah lain. Dan kami berani mengeksekusinya.
Itu cabarannya. Jadi saya mau bertanya juga kepada Tampilan Nazri, jika di Indonesia anggarannya menjadi satu mungkin penghalang untuk pemerintah melaksanakan sesuatu, what about in Malaysia? Is funding also a challenge, an obstacle when it comes to implementing sustainable measures, sustainable practices? Is that what is stopping organizations, companies from executing?
So I think sebab Malaysia ni dia punya situasi dia peruntukan akta quite different from Indonesia in terms of, for example, local authority setup pun berbeza di Malaysia. Kalau di PBT kawasan lain dia use 171 Act 171, tapi Kuala Lumpur dia have their own akta ibu kota, akta perancangan 267 adalah berbeza. I think but for untuk pengurusan sampah kita di bawah akta pengurusan sampah sisa pepejal under KPKT. That's why one important thing is memperkukuhkan polisi pelaksanaan polisi. This is very important for us. I think for the project, I think every local authority, for example DBKL, also ada local authority around Malaysia, walaupun dia menggunakan akta 17 ataupun dua lain-lain akta ibu kota, but the project we can buat, tetapi dasar-dasar dan polisi, for example 3R, this is come from the federal government. This is very important. But for the local authority, I think this is how we implement the dasar or the policy from the federal. This is very important because in Malaysia pengutisan sampah ni ada di bawah Jabatan Sisa Pepejal dan juga bawah SWK and so on. Jadi it's quite different the setup there. But for the project, for the I think 3R, we have I think not only DBKL, I think local authority lain pun dia melaksanakan projek-projek 3R. For example, I said we have 200 IC1R in Kuala Lumpur and we have another program. This is how it works. But I think kita adalah one is the good is a continuous implementation of the policy of dasar from the federal government. This is very important.
So when you talk about all these policies, again, you want to have a dialogue with the communities, with the rakyat. How can they actually get involved? How can they get updated and stay informed about what they can do, what they can say? How can their voices be heard? And also maybe you could enlighten us, how frequent do you have these kind of dialogues or do you plan to have?
I think antara perkara, I think 3 things a factor that to determine the success of dialogue or with FGD. One is credible. Second is what we call it as transparent. And third one is continuous. So in this case, I think we need to have credible, continuous, and also transparent. Because when we organize any participation as pelibatan or libat urus with the public, I think they need what is outcome from the libat urus or FGD. This they want to know. That's why in our program, we have what you call it as BM. We finish one project, we have to report the outcome of the project. We want to give the information to the public and everything. What is the outcome of the project? I think it's not about BKL on also the project in our government. The outcome of project we have to declare to the public. I think this is very important for us. That's why I think I want to share with one of the good example in the BKL in our development order. One of the condition to the developer, when we give a development order to the developer, we give one condition. They have to a communication plan before, during, and after the development. They have to engage the public. When we do, yeah. One of the, I think this is a good practice in the BKL. This is very good because they want a communication plan. When the public complain, so the developer we have to take action, then report to the BKL. This is what we call it as communication plan before, during, and after development.
So, Tang Pradhan Nazri, cities will need to contend with rapid technological change, of course, climate uncertainty, migration pressures, and also shifting demographics. So over the next 10 to 20 years, what do you see as the biggest strategic uncertainty for Malaysian cities?
I think we have to manage the uncertainty. So that's why we need a digital twin, as I mentioned earlier. So we need, I think, a data information from the public. I think now one of the challenges to us is the what we call it perilaku penduduk-penduduk yang berbeza now. Now it's very different from my time. Now that's why we want. I think in the future we would like. I suggest to my department we have to collaborate with the corporation, collaborate with the DOSM because we want to have a survey. We want to study the perilaku all the penduduk-penduduk in Malaysia, and I think particularly in 2.67 million population in KL. I think we need to know what is the need. Because I think to do this, I think the collaboration between DOSM, we know what they want. So one of the input to our digital twin or Kuala Lumpur Urban Observatory. So in the future we know how to plan for the people and some area, because we need, beside the perilaku, we need to identify which area. So this one we need geographical information. We need to cover everything. That's why I think in future one of our 15 is digital twin. This is our focus for the future. Then we have to collaborate internally and also with the other agencies like DOSM, I think pendidikan and everything. This is
Tang Pradhan Nazri, that's an indirect way of you saying to everyone, we are watching you. All eyes are on you, monitoring your behavior, your patterns, your practices, what you do and where you are. So you know from the statistics, because data is everything, what kind of measures to implement. How do you tackle certain issues in a certain area, right? All right, Pak Sadewo, untuk kota-kota ASEAN yang lain yang ingin juga menjadi seperti Banyumas, apakah nasihat yang boleh diberi demi kepentingan masyarakat setempat agar bisa berkelanjutan dalam jangka masa panjang? Jadi for other ASEAN cities seeking to replicate Banyumas model or success, what advice would you offer to ensure local ownership and long-term sustainability? Jadi yang penting juga untuk masyarakat ada ownership itu. Merasakan, okey, ini adalah tempat mereka, ini adalah tanggungjawab mereka.
Ini menjadi, betul ya Bapak tadi, setiap daerah tentu berbeda. Jangankan sampai ke Malaysia. Di kabupaten sebelah Banyumas saja belum tentu bisa menerapkan hal yang sama dengan di Kabupaten Banyumas. Dibutuhkan penyadaran dari pemerintah memberikan penyadaran kepada masyarakat yang dilakukan secara kontinu bahwa sampah itu bukan hanya tanggung jawab pemerintah saja, tetapi tanggung jawab bersama seluruh lapisan masyarakat yang ada di wilayahnya masing-masing. Di Banyumas belum 100%, di pinggiran kota, saya harus akui bahwa di Kabupaten Banyumas belum paripurna, mendekati purna ya, mendekati selesai ya, tetapi belum selesai. Penyadaran kepada masyarakat selalu kita lakukan sampai ke tingkat pemerintahan yang paling bawah di tingkat desa. Kabupaten Banyumas ada 301 desa plus 30 kelurahan, 331 desa. Kita keliling-keliling dari Dinas Lingkungan Hidup untuk memberikan penyadaran kepada masyarakat di pinggiran agar bisa meniru sebagaimana kesadaran masyarakat yang sudah ada di wilayah 39 fasilitas yang kita bangun. Ini mungkin sistem yang sudah dibangun di Banyumas yang cukup baik dengan efektif yang cukup bagus, bisa diadopsi oleh wilayah lain ataupun negara lain, tetapi tentunya dengan cara yang tidak sama persis, tentunya berbeda-beda. Kalau negara yang mungkin keuangannya lebih baik itu menjadi sederhana. Jadi kan saya konsultan, saya datang selesai itu. Ya. Tapi kalau memang kondisi keuangannya kurang baik, memang harus ada trik-trik tertentu supaya penyelesaiannya itu bertahap, tidak tergesa-gesa. Tapi saya yakin di Kuala Lumpur Bapak bisa menyelesaikan karena penduduknya juga masih lebih rendah dari Banyumas kalau tidak salah. Kami 1,8 ya million penduduknya, lebih dari 1,8 juta. Lebih tinggi kan kita. Saya yakin apa yang dilakukan di Kabupaten Banyumas bisa diadopsi oleh wilayah-wilayah lain selama ada kemauan dari pemerintah, political will, kemudian ada kesadaran dari masyarakat. Ini yang penting adalah kemauan dari pemerintah, kesadaran dari masyarakat, kemudian collaboration antara pemerintah dan masyarakat.
Itu yang penting, kolaborasi itu, kerana bukan satu pihak sahaja yang boleh menjayakan sesuatu model seperti yang diamalkan di Banyumas, tetapi semua pihak harus berganding bahu lah. Jadi Tuan Town Planner Nazri, what would you like to implore to not just citizens of Kuala Lumpur but to all Malaysians? How can we live more sustainable lives? What can we do maybe in our everyday daily habits, everyday routines? What can be done from our households?
One of the MyDB satu good inspiration. We have many plans, we have a good plan, we have many plans, good plan and everything. But how to execute the plan is very important. Now is our challenge how we to execute with the people, for the people. This is my last.
Okay, so to wrap up this dialogue, this KL or Mayor's dialogue, I want to know the hopes, harapan daripada anda berdua, your hopes for better future cities. Kita mulakan dengan Pak Sadewa. Apakah harapan secara umumnya, sekeluruhan, bukan untuk Indonesia sahaja atau Malaysia sahaja, tetapi untuk semua sejagat?
Jadi permasalahan sampah itu menjadi isu strategis bukan hanya di Banyumas saja. Itu menjadi permasalahan di seluruh dunia, menjadi perhatian. Sehingga harapan saya tentunya seluruh pemerintah di seluruh dunia dan masyarakat di seluruh dunia itu lebih merasa peduli terhadap permasalahan sampah yang semakin lama itu semakin menggunung itu semakin besar. Apabila ada kolaborasi antara pemerintah dengan masyarakat, kemudian juga ada kerjasama antar pemerintah, mungkin G2G-nya juga kerjasama gitu ya. Ada plus minusnya tentunya, apa yang positif di Banyumas bisa diambil, kemudian kami pun masih belajar dari wilayah-wilayah lain yang menurut kami tentunya ada yang di satu sisi lebih baik. Kita tetap belajar itu. Mesin-mesin juga kita selalu upgrade terus, oh ini kurang, berarti ini kurang, kadang-kadang gini, mohon maaf, sampah, kami pernah membeli mesin pengolah sampah produk Jerman dulu. Ini waktu gila-gilanya. Tapi ternyata sampah Eropa itu berbeda dengan sampah Banyumas. Ini benar Pak. Mesin itu tidak bisa jalan, cepat rusak.
Dari segi apa?
Saya nggak ngerti itu. Jadi mungkin di Eropa sudah betul-betul pemilahan sampah sudah selesai. Di Banyumas waktu itu belum. Sehingga mesin yang kita beli mahal, itu produk Jerman, malah sekarang tidak terpakai. Kita hanya mengadopsi kemudian meniru mesin mereka, kemudian kita bikin sendiri di Indonesia tentunya, di Cikarang ada, di Banyumas juga kita bikin, kemudian kita terapkan di Kabupaten Banyumas. Ini jadi setiap wilayah tentu akan berbeda-beda cara penanganannya. Saya harapkan mudah-mudahan di Kuala Lumpur bisa lebih baik dari Kabupaten Banyumas. Terima kasih.
Mudah-mudahan. Saya tak tahulah berapa lama lagi. And I don't know if in our lifetimes or not, but inshallah. Tuan Pelana Nazri, what about you? What are your hopes?
I think I want to comment two aspects within the government, between the federal government, maybe state government, and also the cooperation between the local government and also at the ministry level. This is very important. But the one more important is the public. So public, we can have communities, also the investor and everything. Because we want to sustain our cities or development, we need the cooperation between the government, also the public, and also the communities. It's very important. This is my comment because we want to a collaboration between everybody in our plan.
Kalau saya nak petik satu apa yang disebut tadi oleh Pak Sadewo, sampah itu menggunung ya, semakin banyak semakin menggunung, tidak akan berhenti. Jadi ini menjadi situasi yang lebih kritikal terutamanya buat generasi muda. Itu yang kita kena fikirkan untuk generasi yang seterusnya. Jadi terima kasih diucapkan. Thank you to Tuan Pelana Nazri and Pak Sadewo for your inspiring leadership, your talking points, your insights, and for showing us that the journey toward sustainable cities is as much about people as it is about policy. So as we've heard today, whether it's through innovative waste management in Banyumas or inclusive urban planning in Kuala Lumpur, the path to achieving SDG 11 begins with empowered communities, all of you, and also courageous local action. Ladies and gentlemen, please do give another round of applause for our distinguished speakers. Thank you once again. Thank you for your attention, and also thank you for your questions. So here's to making more sustainable lives for all of us. It's back to you, Tasneem.
Thank you, Nadia. And also, please give Nadia a huge round of applause. Thank you for moderating this session. So I would like to invite our moderator and our speakers up for a group photo session. Kita ke depan daripada Cube tu. Okay, dipersilakan Mr. Sadewo and Tuan Pelana Nazri and Nadia for a group photo session. All our photographers, please strike your smile, flash your smile. Pak Sadewo, senyum Pak. Senyum yang paling lebar Pak. Thank you very, very much once again. It is indeed a collective effort to ensure sustainability, and it does go a long way, be it in the city like Kuala Lumpur, Jakarta, or any parts of the world. So, thank you once again to our moderator and our speakers. We had a great, great time. Semoga apa yang dikongsikan, biarpun dari Pak Sadewo ataupun Cik Mat Nazri juga, dapat kita terapkan dan segala perancangan ini dapat direalisasikan hanya dengan sokongan dan usaha dari setiap daripada kita. Thank you once again. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are not done yet actually, okay? Even though it's almost 4 p.m., but just so that you know, we have 2 more speakers ahead of us right now. And as we mentioned earlier, we will shine the spotlight on young leaders. So we've had 4 young leaders, inspiring young leaders earlier for our morning session. And now right after this, we will have 2 more inspiring young leaders. Yes, so ladies and gentlemen, we shall move on to our final session for today, entitled Local Spotlight Community Empowerment. So like I mentioned earlier, we are truly honored to have 2 remarkable young leaders All right, so allow me to introduce our first speaker, presenter. She's the Chief Executive Officer of Maybank Foundation and Head of Group Corporate Affairs at Maybank. With nearly 30 years of experience in management, she has played a key role in driving Maybank's regional social impact initiatives, aligning them closely with the group's sustainability agenda. Please join me into welcoming Ms. Islin Ramli as she presents her session titled Championing Social Impact Across ASEAN. Dipersilakan.
Testing. Thank you very much for that wonderful welcome. I don't know whether I'm young, but I'm certainly young at heart, so thank you very much. Assalamualaikum, a very good evening. Thank you to the organizers, to the ministries, and to MGTC for inviting me to speak here. So I'm going to maybe tak kenal tak cinta. Maybank Foundation has been around since 2010. And admittedly, we haven't been forefront in our narrative, so we'd like to share a bit more on what we do across ASEAN. And we'd like to think that we are championing social impact across ASEAN. But first and foremost, I just want to stop here and pause. Whether or not you think you are, or you've started, or you will start, we are all change makers in this room, big or small. So give yourselves a round of applause for that, because that's what we aspire to do. The little changes every day to make lives a little bit better, to make the planet a little bit better. And for us, who's a bank, you might wonder, how do you do that? We really want to do well by doing good. But when we talk about change makers, let me take you back to one change maker who was very instrumental basically in our origin story of Maybank Foundation. Originally, the organizers wanted me to talk about one of our flagship programs, which is Maybank Women Eco Weavers. This is a program that we run across ASEAN, together with weavers from now 5 countries in Cambodia, Laos, Indonesia, Philippines, and Malaysia, Philippines being the latest. But it all started with Vanta Ngon, who is the founder of Color Silk Cambodia and is a weaver's daughter. Her mother did not want her to continue weaving. She went off to get an education, an MBA, but she came back, and when she saw what was really needed in Cambodia was really a skill, a profession, a calling for young girls in the rural villages and women being the center of their homes to be the stable driving economic force for change. So she gave up her own land, her family land, to set up a weaving center. And that's when, by providence, Alhamdulillah, Maybank Foundation met her, we found her, and we had a conversation about our shared values. Today, Vanta runs a very successful social enterprise called Color Silk in Cambodia, exporting abroad. She runs a circular economy model. We call it Eco Weavers for a reason. So in Cambodia, we work with silkworms. So from the moment of sericulture, it is organic and eco-friendly. She works with farmers around her village in Tak Kiao and also now in Siem Reap, where they use spare land to grow mulberry trees. These mulberry tree leaves are collected using tuk-tuk drivers around the village. So again, employing local participants to collect the leaves. It feeds the worms. The worms are then reared carefully, and then then the yarn is spun. And the color, the natural dye color that the dyes that we use are also natural, sourced from natural plants, fauna, barks, and these are also grown in the surrounding vicinity by the farmers, and it also provides a source of food. From there, we train weavers together for about 5-6 months, and they graduate. the looms that they have. So the wonderful thing about weaving is that it is across ASEAN. It is literally the fabric that ties us all together in terms of culture, heritage, and a shared empowerment for women. We then give them the looms to take home, because a lot of them weave at home. But while they are learning, they are earning. And so once we do that, so we now for Colour Silk alone, she has empowered more than 700, close to 800 now, women across in Cambodia, as well as over 1,000 sericulture farmers. So these products are then exported and sold, and weaving is now an artisanal heritage recognized by the Kingdom of Cambodia. But that's just one of the changemaker stories that I'm going to share with you today. For Maybank, we, like most of you here involved in social impact, we are purpose-driven, and our purpose is in humanizing financial services. We realize that banks have a unique role in empowering, simply because we do look at financial inclusion and empowerment. That's our core competence. And we hope to drive social, economic, and environmental impact across ASEAN. In terms of the UN SDGs, admittedly, we would like to cover all, but I think directly we impact 15 out of the 17. And I would like to share that Maybank as a group, our social impact, which straddles social financing and social empowerment. Let me just explain that social financing means all financial products that touch lower income groups, or that lower income groups have access to, whether that's affordable housing, vehicle financing, repayment assistance. And social empowerment, where Maybank Foundation comes in, is more on capability building. And we have been privileged enough to uplift about 5 million lives since inception across ASEAN. Who do we serve as Maybank Foundation? They are generally communities in the markets where we operate, and the key segments that we work with are children, youth, women, and PWDs. And our reason for being is really to uplift communities, as we said, by enhancing quality of life, building trust and goodwill with local stakeholders, like I think many of you have spoken about today. We can't do this alone, right? But most importantly, we have to bring it back to the business. We don't do this just for the sake of doing good. We also do this for the sake of our business and our sustainability of our operations. And in working with local communities and meeting their needs, we get the social license to operate in the countries that we're in. And how we turn purpose into action, like I said, we work with strategic partnerships. And this is always in line with Maybank's group vision, and in this case, in strategically, is our M25 Plus plans, as well as the ASEAN Social Cultural Community Blueprint 2025, which currently is being upgraded and we will go forward into 2045. And that's what we will do in our next phase of strategic development. Just to share with you that Maybank Foundation is also the first financial institution in the region to have been accredited with an ASEAN accreditation entity in 2021. For Maybank Foundation itself, we are the main social impact arm of the Maybank Group. Across the Maybank Group, across the different business sectors that we have, retail, global, Maybank Islamic, and at Etika, all of us have social programs. And we help coordinate the reporting and the information at group level. So at group level, I've given you the numbers, but Maybank Foundation, since 2010 and since 2014, one of our first programs, we have been able to affect close to 600,000 lives via 3 pillars of social impact in education, community, and environment across all ASEAN countries. But what guides us? Because we don't do this just by pure design or by what we think. We have to go back and really think about how can we effect change and what kind of change do our beneficiaries want. And in this, we are guided by the theory of change, amongst others, but we also look at methodologies like B4SI and we also have in-house developed toolboxes. But what I wanted to press upon here is that we always look and have dialogues with the local community on what change and betterment looks like for them. So we start with the current state, and you have to envision an end state. So in this, the theory of change, if you look it up, looks at clarity and sense of purpose, systemic relationship, building solid partnerships, action, where action speaks louder than words, a strong conviction by key actors, and alignment to larger corporate objectives. If we bring that back and apply that to the example that I just gave on the weavers, it means clarity in sense of purpose was that we wanted to give women empowerment in terms of education and skills improvement because they are the cornerstone of their families. A lot of our weavers now not only are able to provide stable homes, their kids get to now go to school, their husbands have there's a sense of stability and routine that empowers them to be more economically active. So that's the financial inclusion. In terms of systemic relationship, like I said, we have this dialogue, building a community business, partnering for success. And where action speaks louder than words, I showed you some of our impact. We now have over 5,000 weavers and farmers that we support, and up to 70% increase in household income. That's important, because at the end of the day, we really want real change to happen for them. Strong conviction by key actors. Because of the small steps that we've taken all over our local communities, we started in Cambodia, as I said, we've now grown to 5 countries, involving all local authorities, our local business branches, Maybank branches, and local stakeholders. And alignment to our larger corporate objectives. This larger corporate objectives, not only the corporate, but of national objectives. And certainly in this respect, it is of promoting traditional textile globally, and as well as promoting ASEAN. And what more than in this year of Malaysia's chair of ASEAN year. What gets measured gets done. So in terms of Maybank Foundation and Maybank, how we approach social impact, we have our own program toolbox, because everybody can do a lot of good, but we need to do good at what we're best at. And for us, that's in financial empowerment and financial inclusion. So we look at programs that are regionally significant, yet locally relevant. We look at things that can differentiate us in terms of the features and program deliverables. We look at sustainable and tangible outcomes as demonstrated. Business-based social purpose, so all our beneficiaries get to open a bank account and learn how to manage finance. And in the end, it's about being at the heart of communities. And in terms of impact measurement, as you know, that's a real challenge in our line of work. There are no standard definitions or standard measurements. And so this is where we work together. We work to define what it means for us. So we have what we call the CR, Corporate Responsibility Matrix, where we look at both elements of reaching communities, benefits to the communities, versus plotted against benefits to the business. And like I said, we can't do it alone. It literally takes a village everywhere we go to make our programs work. So the partners ecosystem is very important. We have different models. Certain countries, we work with one partner for each program, and other programs, we have one partner across the many geographies that we operate in. Some of our partners started as small social enterprises in Malaysia and have grown with us across the region. We are now working with over 350 partners across the various projects. But at the end of the day, when we talk about change, what change do we want to see? Keeping that in mind, we're talking about economic empowerment. We're talking about income earners, education, stable homes, confidence, dignity, and enhancement of quality of life. At the end of the day, we want happy, healthy, safe beneficiaries and economic activities across the markets that we serve. This is important. This is really our true north. And just to share with you some of the flagship and core programs in our 3 pillars of education, community, and environment. Of course, we have scholarships in Malaysia. But we also have a unique ASEAN Maybank Scholarship. This is for ASEAN students in top ASEAN universities. So for instance, a Cambodian goes to Singapore, Singapore comes to Malaysia. This is a partnership that we have with the ASEAN Secretariat and the ASEAN Foundation. And every year we hand them out on ASEAN Day on the 8th of August in Jakarta. So we are now in our 4th cohort. And Catchville Kids is our financial literacy program across ASEAN, the oldest program that we have that has now close to 400,000 students and over 1,000 over schools reached. It's still ongoing now. We have Mark, our math for rural kids, which has now been upgraded this year for STEM and robotics. In community, I've spoken about the Maybank Women Eco-Weavers. I'm going to talk about the Empowering Youth Across Asia shortly, as well as the Reach Independence and Sustainable Entrepreneurship, which is RISE for the PWDs. We also have arts series, as well as Maybank Heart, a crowdfunding program. Just so you know, if you didn't know what Maybank Foundation does. So let me just double click on the women's segment. I spoke about the Maybank Women Eco-Weavers. Let me just highlight that from Cambodia and Laos, we came to Malaysia, and these two ladies, young ladies from Sarawak, had zero knowledge when they started. Haima went on to win the Hassanah Golden Threads Awards as the Young Innovator, as a weaver, and Shamimi also then became a participant, an ASEAN-wide participant at the Maybank Foundation ASEAN Artist Fellowship Program. Both of them are now mentors to other weavers in their communities as a success story. Reach, Independent and Sustainable Entrepreneurship, RISE, is another unique program that we have with over 40,000 participants trained across ASEAN. And I think this speaks for itself. We take them through a 3-day workshop, but then give them 6 months mentorship throughout building their business, overcoming business challenges together, providing motivation for them. We started with PWDs because really nobody was looking at this segment for the longest time, and we're so proud that we're able to help them achieve their dreams. I wanted to highlight one particular lady, Rohani, who is in a wheelchair, and we've been in this program now for a decade, and she's one of our awardee, and her income prior to this was below 5,000 actually, and now she is earning 3 times more, about 15,000 a month, and employing other PWDs and giving back to society. The average income increase for our RISE participants is more than 140%, but the top 40% are even now generating more than 350% in income. These are all validated by your University of Nottingham, and 18 months down the road, 2 years down the road, and 3 years down the road, they're still generating this. Another segment I like to highlight is youth. Empowering Youth Across ASEAN is our flagship volunteer program. Every year, we take 100 youth volunteers from across 10 ASEAN countries, next year including Timor-Leste, hopefully, and we match them to 10 civil society organizations, CSOs or social enterprises. Youth will apply, thousands of youth apply, hundreds of CSOs apply, but every year 100 are matched to 10. And we are now in our 5th cohort with 480 young change makers, 39 CSOs, 50 projects across ASEAN, and alhamdulillah, more than 100,000 beneficiaries. Every year, they come together for 2 months to work on a solution for real solutions for key societal issues that we have today, whether it's climate adaptation or education or just pure empowerment. So if you would like to find out more, you can follow us on Instagram. I'll have our links up in a moment. The other beautiful thing that's come about from social impact collaborations and partnership, like I said, when an organic collaboration ecosystem happens, you get cross-pollination. So a RISE participant with no arms, that she was really doing business with her feet, has learned to weave. In fact, and 2 of them have now learned to weave. and are doing this in Indonesia, which is a lovely thing. Another thing I'd like to highlight is our natural dye workshop. Now that we've come to a number of years, we've now been we cross-pollinated knowledge where our weavers from Cambodia and Laos, who have hundreds of shades of natural dye colors, have come to Malaysia to teach our other weavers from Philippines, Indonesia, and the other countries to work with the natural ingredients around their villages and even bring in some of the ingredients from around the region to make colors. Just to highlight to you, in 2024, we had 68 colors developed for Malaysia and now 158 colors in 2025. I just came back from Kudat with the Rungos and Iranun communities where they developed those colors literally over a week. But the opportunities are vast. Imagine proper sustainable colors for all our textiles in Malaysia. This is the dream that we hope to collaborate with other partners going forward in our national textile and regional textile heritage and production. But at the end of the day, change begins with us. I want to end with a key story about, I was earlier in Siargao, Philippines, the furthest, most right corner of Philippines, at a place called the School of Hope, Espoir. And a little boy was playing with word cards that we developed as part of their financial literacy as well as educational literacy. And he was given, other people were given words like food, passports, I like to eat Italian food, or, with passports you can travel and so on. He was given the word change. And I thought, he would thought like, what would he, a 9-year-old boy, he stood up, looked around and he goes, I want to change my life. And this is why we do the work that we do across the regions and we endeavor to do better for them. And so with that, thank you very much. I'll leave you with one picture that should paint 1,000 words. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you very much, Mrs. Lin. Mrs. Lin, we've got a few questions for you. So, sebentar ya. Okay. In building social resilience at the community level, how can corporate foundations like Maybank Foundation bridge the gap between policy ambition and the realities faced by people on the ground?
Thank you for that question. That's a question we try to come together every day. So in Malaysia, like I said, we don't do it alone. We collaborate and have dialogues all the time. In fact, in Malaysia, we have a wonderful network called the GDRN, which is the GLICs and GLCs, Demi Rakyat dan Negara, which is a fraternity of corporate foundations that come together and discuss together with NGOs and CSOs, identify needs, and so that we don't duplicate efforts across the foundations, right? So that we can bring the best of what each foundation and corporate to the table. We have demonstrated this over the COVID period, where we amassed about 195 million in terms of the value of goods that we brought to the table. PPEs, equipment, medicine supplies, each of the foundations had a part so that we didn't duplicate. We could also mobilize better because, for instance, MAS is in there, MAHB, LTAT, ATM for logistics. So everyone brings what they do best, right? So together with the NGOs and CSOs, we identify the issues at hand, and then we see what we can bring to the table. But the beauty of this is we don't work just with us, we also work with the government. So the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Economy, they come in, and often they also provide us with matching grants. I wanted to bring that up because that is a clear example of how we can affect change and scale our impact.
Mrs. Lin, you have impactful initiatives, right? But question is, one of the audience was asking, how can corporates and youth in our audience today be part of your initiative?
Okay.
How is it possible for them to be a part of?
So the first clear answer is if you are a youth under the age of 35, 18 to 35, you can apply for our Empowering Youth Across Asia program, either as a youth volunteer or if you are a social enterprise or an up-and-coming CSO, you can also apply to become one of those CSOs that we match. That is on an annual basis. Because we have 4 cohorts going into 5 cohorts now, we also have an alumni of changemakers, right? And social enterprises that have learned to capacity build with us and have gone on to grow. So these are ways for them to volunteer as well. For our volunteer programs, for our current flagship programs, of course, to abide by certain safety and compliance, those are internal to us, but May bankers themselves, our 44,000 May bankers across the region, are also able to volunteer for those programs. So in short, public volunteering is only up to the programs that we do with EYAA, or Empowering Youth Across ASEAN. But you know, there are other projects that we do under Group Human Capital every year. Every year we have what is known as Cahaya Kasih, which is our global corporate responsibility initiative. That one, every country, every Maybank country, 18 countries, we run about 90 odd initiatives with selected NGOs across the 18 countries, like I said. We work with them for 2 years. That one also has volunteerism programs via the NGOs that we work with.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Islin. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you to all of our audience too for the questions. And terima kasih. So, you've heard what Ms. Islin shared, but this is what I remember, one of the things that she said as, we are all change makers and change begins with us. Terima kasih sekali lagi, Ms. Islin. All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to our next presenter. She is the Chief Executive Officer of Yayasan My SDG, a foundation established to accelerate Malaysia's progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals. With over 20 years of experience in the non-profit sector, she has previously served in leadership roles at the Hassana Foundation, UNDP, and Mercy Malaysia, focusing on community development, humanitarian response, and advocacy for marginalized groups. Put your hands together for Ms. Anita Ahmad. Dipersilakan.
Assalamualaikum and a very good evening. Maybank Foundation is a hard act to follow up. But Islin is a very good friend, so I'm happy to share the stage with her. So very briefly, I don't think many of you would have heard about Yayasan My SDG, so I'll give a quick introduction because we are one of the new foundations in the market, so to speak. So we were established in 2022 by the Ministry of Finance under the Trustees Incorporation Act. And the idea was that we were created in order to support the country in accelerating the SDGs, or the Sustainable Development Goals. Because as we all know, if you know about the Sustainable Development Goals, the target is to meet all the SDGs by 2030, which is not that long coming. It's only 5 years away. So we were we were created for that purpose, number one. Number two, now, I mean, it's wonderful to hear of, there are many foundations actually in Malaysia already, serving and doing wonderful things. But there are certain pockets of society that the Ministry of Finance realized that still needed quite a lot of support. And I'll go a little bit more into that in my next slide. And in order to achieve this vision, we have the responsibility of mobilizing, managing, and monitoring resources to enhance the work that the government is doing, and of course in partnership and collaboration with other stakeholders. Yeah? And currently we are supporting about 40 projects. So we were set up in 2022. I really came in 2023. So within quite a relatively short term, we are already supporting 40 projects across the country, and benefiting, or we aim to benefit at least about 30,000 people. Yeah? Sorry. So maybe just to, so this is a map of where we are. So just like many other organizations, we are nationwide. But what we do, so there are many ways of giving out grants, and that's what we do compared to, different organizations. So what we do is that we work in partnership with the UN to mobilize larger funds. So this is about $100,000 to $400,000 to larger organizations who are a lot more established, and you can go through a very strict criteria through their assessment process. But what we realize is that there are many also smaller organizations that wouldn't be able to fulfill that very high criteria. So internally, we also support grants, which is up to about 250,000 ringgit. Yeah? So what we do as an organization as well is that we want to make sure that, one, not only are we addressing the most marginalized and most vulnerable and making sure that no one is left behind. Number two, as well, we are looking at how do we ensure the continuum of funding of some of these projects, because quite a lot of times, with good intentions, we are supporting maybe one-off projects or one-off initiatives. So by having two types of funding at different funding size, we hope to then, with the smaller ones, scale up to them to become larger organizations and also to be able to scale. So with the program that we support directly through our own funding at 250,000, we commit to at least 3 capacity building for NGOs for them to improve the way they approach things. Yeah? Because while we have good intentions to work with NGOs, a lot of NGOs are running on passion rather than necessarily a very strict, structured way of doing things. So part of our commitment to these NGOs is that, number one, we invest in you if you are starting a new initiative. And so we take a lot of risk in terms of what we support, because some of the things that they're doing is quite difficult, or dealing with very marginalized communities, which is not very welcome necessarily by different parties in the country. So we invest in them to build them up, and we do this by approaching them as well. So we do a lot of engagement before we actually provide grants. Yeah? So similar to what Iselin was alluding to, is that it needs to be a partnership, there needs to be a lot of engagement. So for these ones, we spend a lot of time, like for example, as a new organization, we have gone to different states to do focus group discussions with different NGOs. So like last year, we went to Sabah, we not only met with a lot of NGOs, but we also then went to different parts of the state to understand the different nuances. Because one of the things that we must understand is that although Malaysia is only has 34 million and plus, all of us actually, we are broken into different types of groupings. Yeah? So we have different needs and different requirements, different cultures. So we need to really go on the ground to understand some of these issues. And then this year we went to Kelantan. And how do we prioritize? Is that we go and we use national statistics to see which are the states that are most left behind. And on top of that, to validate some of the finding that the state has, then we talk to organizations. And when we go to the ground as well, when we meet organizations, then we understand, number one, from their perspective, what are the grassroots issues. Number two, we also see some of these projects, not necessarily that we are funding, to validate some of these findings, and we have extensive discussions as well. So like in Sabah, we spent about 1 week there, and we curate it in such a way that we make sure that we go to different parts that reflect different kind of issues. So, for example, the first day we were in Kota Kinabalu, where we had focus group discussions. Then I requested to go into a plantation, and there are many plantations in Sabah. So we went to a plantation to visit a school in the plantation. And then after that, we went to the islands of Sabah, which has completely different communities and issues as well. So this is why it's quite important that, as you read data, you get to know yourself as an organization also must turun padang, so to speak, to really hear on the ground on what are these issues. And we'll continue doing this. We wish we could do this a few times a year, but that's not possible. So every year we choose a state to visit. Yeah? So what I really wanted to talk today is, normally I think we're quite familiar with the term of vulnerable and marginalized, but what we want to focus on in my SDG is really understanding who are the unserved and who are the underserved. And I like to share what we feel is the difference between these two groups. And it's quite important to recognize the differences, because with these differences, then your intervention will also have to be slightly different or completely different in some aspects. So as we know, I don't think I have to share, you would have heard the many issues in Malaysia, although we are, of course, going towards a high-income nation. There's still a lot of inequality in multiple things, including access to education, healthcare, and decent livelihoods. But what I really wanted to talk about is that we have actually two groups, and number one is the unserved. And these are communities who remain excluded from basic services, limiting their ability to thrive and contribute to Malaysia's growth. Yeah? So they typically would face barriers to education, healthcare, and formal employment. And these are, remains potentially untapped talent, actually, if we don't include them in policies. And I'd like to maybe touch on some of these communities. So this can be, for example, what we have found through studies as well as engagements by different organizations is that there remain a lot of Malaysians who don't have ICs, yeah, for multiple reasons. So number one is because they would have been in very rural areas and they don't have access to Jabatan Pendaftaran Negara. So without having the ICs, they can't go into school. And because of poverty as well, then they don't have enough finances to even go to the nearest town to register the birth. So that's still happening in Malaysia. And while we acknowledge that the government is doing their best, and we are also working with MPs to address this issue, the point is that there remains pockets of communities who don't have documentation. And this is only one reason. There are multiple reasons why, which I won't go into, why they wouldn't have documents. Now, once you don't have a document in place, and even though they're Malaysians, then you can't go to school. Because when you go to school, you need your birth certificate and your IC card. Similarly, when you access healthcare, then you can't, because you'll be treated as a foreigner and not as a Malaysian. You have to pay a full price. And then when you go for formal employment, you can't get minimum wage because you're not registered as a Malaysian. So these are what we mean by some of these pockets of communities that still exist. And quite shockingly enough, we actually did a program with one MP where part of the program was to train their officers on how to ensure these Malaysians get their documentation. We found even in Selangor, about 300 to 400 people came forward to try to register themselves. And again, the complexities of why they're not registered, I won't go into here, but they do exist. And therefore, these are the kind of support that we want to provide. Now, in terms of the underserved, the communities that we are talking about, so we have good hospitals, of course, we have schools, but their full access is not easy for multiple reasons again. Either it's poverty, because of distance, because of understanding of the benefits to go to some of these locations. A lot of it is because transportation is really very far. So, for example, when I went to Sabah, quite interestingly enough, when I went to this island called Omadal Island, which is about 45 minutes from Semporna, I met this lady and she was holding her baby. And I said, what's the name of the baby's name? And they were like saying, oh, number dear, fiber. I was like, fiber? Why fiber? Is that a fiber boat? I said, that's quite an unusual name. Oh, that's because, and her husband was explaining, that's because when she was pregnant and she was about to deliver, we had to take her by boat, which already cost about 200 ringgit, to get onto the island. And the baby was born in the fiber boat. So they decided to call the baby a fiber boat. So I don't know whether they were serious, but this is a real story, yeah? Where despite having a hospital, we still have pockets of communities that have to travel anywhere between 45 minutes to 3 hours to get to a hospital. I have traveled just similarly like Islin as well to the depths of Malaysia. One project, it took me 3 hours by normal road and then 4 hours by off-road and then another 2 hours by boat. So these kind of realities do exist in Malaysia still. So typically this would happen among, of course, Orang Asli communities, but not only Orang Asli, but also other indigenous groups as well from Sabah and Sarawak, where still access is still a challenge. And then, of course, quality education also remains a challenge. Yeah? So for example, yes, we have good schools, but internet infrastructure is maybe poorer in rural areas. Or even if you have teachers going to these different locations, some of them may not want to be having to travel for 45 minutes to 2 hours just to get to school on a daily basis. And these are the real stories that we have heard, yeah? Where teachers, even in Sabah, for example, have to go through broken bridges or have to go by boat just to teach, never mind the students as well. So that still exists for our indigenous groups, whether in Peninsular Malaysia, Sabah or Sarawak. And then, of course, persons with disabilities. I think we still, congratulations to Maybank for doing such a great job in terms of lifting their economic livelihood, and we also compliment that work, but really that's not enough. So I challenge all of you today, for example, when you were at the conference today, how many persons with disabilities did you see included in this conversation? Do you see them in this room? Did you see them in the corridor? Did you see them in other rooms? That means they are excluded, and it doesn't mean that they should be excluded. We have hospitals, but the needs of persons with disabilities is not health, but other sort of therapies and rehabilitation for them to be included. We need policies that allow them to come, or not rather allow, but that facilitate them to be able to work. So that means providing certain equipments within our offices. Even we are trying, and we were appalled that when I first did a very quick audit of the office that we are in, then we realized that we have a disabled toilet, but it's on the ground floor, and we are in an office that is 35 floors, which is disgraceful for this day and age. And it's supposed to be a new building. So these kind of things is what we mean by underserved. Yes, the facilities are there, but not quite there. And then, of course, there are other people as well in terms of low-income women, children, and youth. And they face many issues, including access to daycare. So one of the things I always talk about when we work with B40, I literally heard somebody from a corporate world tell me just last week, oh, these B40 people, what more can we do to them? They're very lazy. And that was such an unbelievable thing for me to hear, because I'm sure, Islin, you have found, right? Low-income people are not lazy. They work harder than we do. They hold multiple jobs. And yet, they're not treated equally as everybody else. So you imagine like some of the women that Islin and I have encountered, they're probably doing setting up their social enterprise. They're probably trying to mobilize women to do and follow them. And then they're probably also trying to learn at the same time. Plus they're a mother, they're a wife, and in the age of our aging society, they're having to be a caregiver to the elderly. So what's the kind of support for them? So this is what we mean by the underserved, yeah? It's not quite there yet. We've got some things going right, but we are not there yet. So some of the things that we talk about, what about caregiving needs? What about the aging community? So I can go on about that. But I hope that makes you understand that with Yayasan My SDG, that's what we're trying to distinguish, that these are two different groups and require two different interventions. So just to very quickly, I forgot to start my timer, okay. So what I wanted to say as well, I think what's good about the philanthropic, and what I mean by philanthropic is organizations like Maybank Foundation and many other foundations that are available in the country, is that we have rightly so moved from charity to development or social impact. And what does that mean? Yeah? That means we no longer just give one off. Most of us no longer look at it as a charity program. That means it's just to support in the short term. A lot of us are looking in a framework that's more structured and more long term and with real impact. So I wanted to give an example or some of the discussion around the approaches that you would do to empower the unserved, as opposed to when you approach support for the underserved. Yeah? So very quickly, so again, what I meant by the unserved is that these are populations completely excluded from essential services. Therefore, empowerment means creating access where none exists. So when we look at empowerment for communities as well, we really need to break it down by the different communities. You can't use one term to suit all. You need to kind of really break it down. And this is some of the approaches that I suggest, which we do use in my SDG, but some of this is also something that some of the things that we aspire to, yeah? So normally when you support any initiative, you should be looking at it from a theory of change, which Islin did share. And from that, you need to break it down further to see what are your inputs, outputs, outcomes, and impact. And it's something that we need to understand the differences, yeah? So very, very quickly, some of the inputs that organizations like ours are trying to do, and other organizations like ours, is the first thing is that we of course fund. But I always tell people that, okay, as a foundation, we are not an ATM machine, yeah? We're not just here to give money, we need to do a lot more than that. So some of the things that we need to do is, apart from funding, we need to also invest in infrastructure. So if there is a gap in, say for example, a healthcare facility, say for example, in that island that I was talking about, On that island, there was no clinic on that island. So what we supported in my previous organization was to have a form of mobile clinic or mobile access. So, and we just took a room and filled it up with somebody who could do, to provide health at the community level, and filled it up with basic Panadol, that's it. So that's starting from zero, from nothing to something, and it starts. So this is what I mean by infrastructure investment. So when I talk about infrastructure investment, it doesn't have to be a huge building. It starts at the community level, yeah? And of course, you must do it with partnerships with local leaders. And that must start from the very beginning. You don't do it at the end, as also easily mentioned, yeah? And what this does is that you slowly start to catalyze systems change through initial capital, yeah? So, and with this as well, of course, it's important to bring different parties together, because you cannot enter, say, for example, to set up a clinic without getting involved Ministry of Health or organizations that have got health expertise. You cannot do it without asking the permission of the local leader, and you certainly cannot just introduce it without bringing the community in as well. Now, what would this lead to as you start to invest in different infrastructure is you start building schools or investing in schools, clinics, or different types of infrastructure, because you want to establish it for the community. So you might start off with 20 to 30 people, but you should be expanding that. And to ensure then, not only is that facility available, but then you're talking about making sure that it's equitable, service delivery, and transparency. What do we mean by equitable? That everybody in the community can access. And then the third one is that as you go along, then you're looking at outcomes, then you need to see that it's improved, that the facilities continue. Because one of the challenges of one-off projects is that what happens when you remove yourself from the equation, and after 6 months or 1 year or 18 months, there's no way an initiative that you started can be self-sustainable, right? So you may need to continue it. And then at the same time, you build local capacity building for them to take over. So I always say to my fellow social impact activists, we must always, so one is to have a purpose, but we must always look at putting ourselves outside of, out of a business. If I could one day, I've been in this space for 25 years and say that I can really, so my aspiration is that I can retire because everything's great. Not going to happen lah. But that's what we should be thinking, right? How do you put yourself out of business? How do you not depend for your salary on a social impact initiatives, because everything should have been done as it should. So that's another angle that I look at it, yeah? And then finally, from the impact space, and part of our policy is that everything that we do, these communities are included, which means we don't have to create new buildings. We include them in structural inclusion, yeah? And this is what I mean by we exit responsibly as well. So at some point, as we support them, we build their capacity, we have local ownership, and what the aspiration would be is that they become absorbed in so for example, educational or health systems, and then we can then exit so that they can continue to provide that service. Or, if that's not possible, then to find a way where they themselves will own these different infrastructure with services and be part of the process and part of the running of these places. Now, for empowering the unserved, then we do it slightly different. So, as I mentioned before, these are populations with partial access, but limited maybe quality, reach, or participation. So empowerment is really about enhancing inclusion, equity, and agency. So what we do here is then your investment becomes very targeted, yeah? So that means it's not like before where you have to do at the very base because you're starting from zero. In this case, you are then thinking, okay, like in the case of Malaysia, we already have pretty good programs. So sometimes these programs that sometimes some parties keep doing over and over again, it doesn't work. Same year, same budget announcements, and same thing. And it's not changing. So we have to be innovative. And how do we become innovative? We have to look at how do we catalyze change and catalyze systems. And I can go on about this, but I won't. But really becoming a lot more creative in how we do things. And then we have to do also mainstreaming issues, because sometimes in our projects we are a bit biased. So we need to make sure that we are inclusive, including to make sure that both men and women are involved. So I've seen a lot of programs where it's very skewed to either men or to women. An ideal program would include both. And then, of course, we talk about ensuring. Now, one of the things that we also need to leverage when you're talking about underserved communities is to leverage on their local knowledge. So this is especially the case for indigenous knowledge, but not always indigenous knowledge. Yeah? It can also be the knowledge that you have in a PPR. So what I've learned is that when you work from one PPR to another, it's very different. The local knowledge of the politics that happens in the PPR, the local knowledge of which room works or which lifts works, that's very important. So we need to recognize that as well and not just plunge in and do the project. And this, we can also catalyze through some capital as well. So for example, if it's starting with a small room, we need to upgrade it to a bigger location. And this is some of the projects that some of the foundations are doing in terms of schools. So from a very basic school, then it's expanded to include digital solutions. And so for one of the things that I was told is that, we can't get the internet in certain parts, but you can use satellite, which is available. So we have to think of different innovative ways. Yeah? And then secondly, of course, is to improve service quality and then make sure that these are already communities with some access, so you can actually organize them for them to own enterprises. Or as we have seen also through some projects in ASEAN through Maybank Foundation, is that you empower the person to also run social enterprises. And there are many examples of this. And it's about also improving service quality, right? So a lot of the projects that a lot of foundations are doing, and so are we, is to train our teachers. It's not about sometimes that they're not trained, but then they have changes, like for example, COVID. COVID is a perfect example of how things change, where teachers had to then suddenly become more digitally savvy. So we had to be innovative in terms of responding. So this is what I mean, that in the outputs, we had to find adaptive solutions and also models that are participatory. So I'm just going to go a bit faster because I don't have much time. Then in outcomes, then as you do this, then you have to increase utilization, yeah? And then you continue to strengthen local ecosystems and economies. And I'll give some example about what we mean by strengthening local ecosystems. But just offhand, there's no point if you empower the community to be able to plant vegetables if you don't also ensure that these vegetables can be sold out in the market. So this is what I mean by, as you increase their capabilities or target communities, you increase their skill set, you need to make sure that they are also able to access ecosystems and local economies and beyond. Yeah? And this means also, again, influencing policy, because there's a lot of things that we do that we cannot do on our own, even as philanthropic organizations. We need government intervention. So for example, if road accessibility, foundations cannot be expected to build roads, but we must voice this out to the right stakeholders to say this road must be built so that there's access not only in terms of education, but access to market to sell vegetables, for example, but I can give other examples. And then ultimately, it is also to transition the agency. So what I mean by agency is that ultimately, again, putting ourselves out of a job is whatever we help build with the community, we must leave them to it. So we have many examples of projects that I can talk about where, yes, we funded them for a few years, we've built the capacity, and then we could remove ourselves and they're running the business themselves. So we need to do more on that. But the difference is that, and why I say impact, between input and impact, it's not 1 year or 2 years. Sometimes minimum is 5 years. It takes continuous commitment, yes? So that's quite important. And then lastly, if you're talking about financing, we need to also be more sophisticated in financing. We should be moving from just grant giving to different types of financing, such as linking to investments as such, and so on and so forth. So that's just an example. I wanted to give you just a very brief, it's actually a whole talk in itself, but I don't have time to go into that. But I just wanted to emphasize that when you talk about different communities, then you really have to address different needs. So, yeah, very quickly we have, of course, multiple projects. Very quickly, the first one is by Good Shepherd Services. So we have a project there in Sabah. Now, what's important here is that not only are we training them to be ecotourists and to provide their location with skill sets or their communities with skill sets to become tour guides, and to establish homestays. But we actually used an ASEAN community tourism module in order to teach them, right? And that's the other thing. When you train these communities also, you need to up the standard. It cannot be just, okay, I'm going to train you in ecotourism. What standard are we looking at? So a lot of the things that we do as a foundation is that we want to see, okay, when you want to develop this module, what the module is this? What expertise do you have? You cannot be just a passionate NGO that's going to develop modules. Are you going to partner with different groups? So we've had projects, for example, where it's matched against Ministry of Tourism modules or other modules. So in this case, it was an ASEAN community-based tourism module, so that they are able to provide the service at a certain standard that is of appeal to their customers. PACOS is also similar. I won't talk about that. In this case, I wanted to demonstrate that sometimes you can't just focus on one community. If you want to support the whole ecosystem, you have to provide support to the children, you have to provide support to the youth as well as the women as well. Then you support the whole ecosystem or the whole village, and so that it's more inclusive as well. The third one is a very typical program. So this is a program under PSPK that provides practical skills like baking, tailoring, and digital marketing. And I just wanted to say it's the continuing of training people how to bake and tailor, but also learning how to market. So that's not uncommon in Malaysia. In terms of serving the unserved, so in Sabah, we found multiple water villages in Sabah that did not have water sanitation facilities. And this is because they've been built over time and they build these homes themselves, right? So this is a project where the UNDP and UN Habitat, which we funded, actually improved the wastewater management by providing, and this is what I mean by innovation. They brought in an innovative, low-cost solution to be able to manage the waste of this particular village. And more importantly, what they did was that they placed it in the mosque, and it became a central point where they could do training, so that it didn't become an individual issue, but a community issue, and it could go through the mosque. And long story short, by ensuring clean water, it not only improved the sanitation and water sanitation in the area, it improved access to clean water. It also had other impact like improved economic livelihood as well. Because with cleaner water, then they could provide certain items that use clean water. Yeah? So it's sometimes one intervention can do multiple things. And just like Islin, all of us foundations always have an individual story. So I'll end with that. I think, Islin is right. We are all change makers, but whenever we visit our projects, we always find this one superstar. So I always call them the superstar of the community. And of course, our NGOs always bring us to the superstar. So this superstar from Rompin, Pahang, her name is, she's 60 years old. See, she's not lazy. She's more hardworking than me. At 60 plus years old, husband just passed away. So her name is Nini Alan. Husband just passed away the year before. And what she was doing, the NGO had taught her how to do, so she was a rubber tapper, only earning 500 to 800 ringgit, depending on the weather. She was already trained by the community to do regenerative farming. So she was farming produce, and then they introduced a project for her to learn how to cultivate or grow free-range chicken. And so she has about 100 chickens also, and they do get harvested or made into to be sold to the public. And so imagine she's 60 plus years old, she's managing her crops, she has 3 children, husband just passed away, and she was also running a chicken coop. And this chicken coop is completely new skills, yeah? So she had to learn how to grow these chicks. She had to make sure that they grew up healthily. And what was interesting is, as well, is that because vets are expensive, and to get to vets are expensive, so she uses Orang Asli traditional knowledge in order to cure the chickens. All this at that age. And so is she lazy? No, right? But she continues to do this, and she's learning new skills at this age. But the difference is, of course, in doing that, the NGO that she works with works very closely. They practically live in the community in order to support them. And right now, you can find the chickens in Section 14. So imagine from the village of Rompin, the NGO has provided and brought the chicken up to section 14, and you can find them online. So these are some of their adverts, and they are structured enough that they bring these are free range, so very healthy chicken, and so I held some of them, and you can see the chicken is a very healthy chicken as well. They bring it to market, and then they sell it to the high-end market, because this is organic come free range chicken, so it's quite premium prices. And there's a lot of feedback from people as well, saying that, like there's one testimony that said, before I used to be quite allergic to chickens, because as you know, chickens have a lot of hormones and all kinds of things. And with this one, his allergy has gone. So this is what we need to understand. When we support low-income communities or indigenous communities or communities that live very far, if we do it well, ultimately it benefits all of us. So it's not only about empowering communities, ultimately it's also strengthening ourselves and the country with, for example, better, healthier chickens. So we address other things that concern maybe urban communities, like food security, as well as nutritious food. And with that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Anita. We do have a question for you. How can Malaysia's sustainability efforts ensure that the unserved communities are placed at the heart of decision making and benefit equitably from national progress?
Have empathy. It's very simple. I mean, there are so many issues going on in Malaysia. It's not like you don't read it in the papers. You read about it in the papers. But why are you not making a difference? And I'm going to be tough about this. So some of us were just discussing, and it's going to be a bit of a serious topic. Today, we just read that a child stabbed another child in school. Previously, a child was gang raped in school. And where is the outcry? If we had empathy about this, then we will make sure that all of us stand up and say we need safe schools. But it's very quiet. So this is me giving, because I feel very passionate about this, because I cannot believe that children are not safe. And children need to go safely to schools so that they can learn and thrive. And that's part of Sustainable Development Goals. So if you look at the SDGs, it's not a separate thing from you. It involves our lives, whether we are rich, we are poor, we are unserved or underserved, or sitting in privilege. It actually affects all of us. Safe schools affect all of us. So where is our empathy? So empathy is not being about kasihan. Empathy is being able to put yourself in that position of that person. So once you do that, then actually everything you do will be sustainable. So you will think, like for me, right? Because I'm trying to be a better citizen, when I think about sustainability, I start at home. I start with myself. Am I separating my waste? Actually, I do separate my waste. Am I reducing waste through food? Yes, I really try. Am I reducing how I drive? Am I being kind to the person? So kindness is easy. But am I doing more to advocate for that person so that person's rights is also met? And that starts with understanding that what impacts them can also impact us. Because otherwise we don't see change in the country. It becomes a policy, or we see it's politics. It's not. It starts with you. Is everything that you do on a daily basis, and I start this with the office as well. For example, my colleagues, I was telling them, I said, we get a lot of air pollution. I think we need to get some air purifier. Then my colleague, because she lives by it, she said, Anita, can we get plants instead? I said, absolutely, you gave me a good alternative. Why think of something that uses electricity? But it's embedded in her. Similarly to me, I'm doing a conference. Everything, we really try our best. Is this made of plastic? Is that, why do you want to put... So it becomes automatic once you empathize, once you're connected to what you read in the news. Because sometimes we read the news, it's never going to happen to you. But should it matter whether it's going to happen to you or not? It is. The environment's impacting you. Even those living in urban areas, floods are impacting you. So do something about it. So I don't know. Every time people ask me this question, I don't. Just do it. Simple.
Agreed. 100%. A big round of applause for Miss Anita. Please remain on stage, Miss Anita, while we call upon Miss Islin to join up on stage for a group photo session. Ayo kita berikan tepukan gemuruh sekali lagi. Terima kasih diucapkan pada Miss Islin dan Miss Anita di atas perkongsian bagi sesi terakhir kita pada hari ini. Our last session for today, Kuala Lumpur Sustainability Summit 2025. Thank you once again. Terima kasih. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have officially come to the end of day 1, KLSS 2025. And tomorrow, just so that you know, tomorrow we'll be hearing from Bloomberg Asia, featuring a stellar lineup of experts speaking on ESG, climate economy, sustainable finance. We'll also have a special insight session by someone very prominent. So please do join us again tomorrow for the second day and the last day of Kuala Lumpur Sustainability Summit 2025. So till then, thank you very much. Have a good day. Goodbye. Bye-bye. Terima kasih. Hey, hi. Bye.